18 season of the Creventic season, kicking off first with 45 minutes for the touring car endurance racers. We've got 9 of them in the Touring Car Endurance Championship. They're just going to push out onto the track. They've had practice sessions yesterday and today, and it's a really fantastic mix. GT4 cars, TCR class, right the way down to the A2 class cars at the rear end of the timesheets, but competition intense in every class. So let's see how the next 45 minutes unfold.
Thank you, Bruce. Bruce Jones down there in the pit lane, and important to point out that we are running 2 separate championships within the same 24-hour event this weekend. The TCE series, the new for 2018 Hankook 24H GT series, new name for that, and it is the touring car based series that will go out first onto the circuit. Alongside me here up in the booth, Johnny Palmer and Paul Truswell. You ready for this, Johnny? I think this is going to be very interesting.
I think it's going to be highly entertaining throughout, and some cut and thrust qualifying then to set the grid for the first round of the year for the 2018 TCE series. Green flag waved now. One of the two Team Altran Peugeot Racing Cup cars that are permitted into the TCR category, making its way out then, closely followed by the sister machine, but an illustration of the varied field that is at home here in the TCE series. You think TCE, you might think immediately TCR, but an awful lot of other cars are permitted into this category.
Lots of other letters.
Yes, true.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just the simple way that my brain tends to work. But classes A2, classes GT4 and SP2 also permitted into the TCE series. So launch into the new season we go.
And Cup 1, Johnny, as well. The
yes.
venerable now, I think we can call it, BMW M235 iRacing Cup, which is still the entry-level customer racing car for BMW. Now supplemented, of course, with the GT4 M4, which made its debut here last year, running non-homologated in SPX. That car about to take its competitive edge to various championships around the world, having had its homologation confirmed after a season of development that started right here in Dubai at this time last year. They're moving up for BMW this year to the GT3 category, still the M6, the GT3 car of choice for BMW, and new for 2018, BMW will have the new M8, the Mate. That is in GTE and GT Le Mans spec, and that will take BMW back to the Le Mans 24 hours in June. Of course, we'll be there to see that happen. That car's competition debut, the M8, will be at Daytona in a couple of weeks' time, and we'll be covering that over on our sister channel on RS2 IMSA Radio. Good afternoon to you, those of you here at this circuit just after 4 o'clock. Almost say good evening in about half an hour's time. We're going to start to lose the daylight in round an hour and 15 minutes time, and by 6 o'clock it'll be pitch black. It's like turning a light off at this time of the year. Paul Truswell is the other voice in the booth. Good afternoon to you, Paul.
Good afternoon, John. It's splendid to be here, isn't it? Great way to get the year off to a good start. And who else is getting the year off to a good start? It's Kurt Euser. He's leading the pack through in the number 71 BMW M3. This is an SP3 class car, and I've forgotten how many 24-hour races Kurt Euser has done. But
all of them, ever, since the beginning of time.
I think it's up towards 60 or 70. So, I mean, still as youthful as ever in his approach and enthusiasm for the sport. And I saw him yesterday getting the car ready. And he's not just a prima donna racing driver. He's a key element, I was going to say a core element, a key element to the team as well. He gets involved, he gets his hands dirty. If there's wheels that need changing and there's nobody doing it already, then he'll get on and do it himself. So always leading the field around in the number 71 BMW. only 45 minutes this session, and that's going to be a bit of a challenge for them. I think it's great that they're letting the touring cars have this qualifying session all to themselves.
Bruce to TV.
It's about 30 of them, and I reckon
Interview coming up,
with 31 cars
Ricky
on the
Coomber.
circuit, that's just about right. You'll be able to get a few clear laps in, get the car dialed in first, make any changes that you need to make, then get out there, couple of quick laps, and as John was saying, evening is approaching. By the end of this session, it'll be 4:45, and that might just give the opportunity for some last-minute heroics.
Let's go to Bruce Jones, who's down in the pit lane and is ready with Ricky Coomber from the 99 car.
Ricky, just been talking on air about how qualifying works. It's only 45 minutes. It is qualifying for a 24-hour race. So how do you judge its relevance?
Not that important for us, really, to be honest. The car we got really is obviously a new car, so we're down on some power, obviously, because of penalties due to homologation and so forth. So we're just get a lap time in and park it up and save it for the race, really. That's it. So it's to keep the thing going.
Yeah, so David Drinkwater about to go out, but great to have more manufacturers coming into play in TCR.
Yeah, that's a good thing about it. They are manufacturers' cars, so it should make the field competitive. So, yeah, I mean, we're looking forward to the rest of the season. Obviously, the car will get homologated, I think it's in February, and then we'll be back at Silverstone. So, hopefully, we're a bit more speed.
Well, speed is of the essence. Anyhow, Ricky, best of luck.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Great to have Ricky with us. As always, with the RKC TGM backing, but a different car as he describes, and it's going to take those chaps associated with the 99 a little while to get used to the Honda FD2 Civic. He reckons that they're down on power, so we wish them well in trying to chase that, if necessary, through the season. The 112 car just heading through turns 1 and 2. This is one of two Stanco and Tanner Motorsport machines. One is a Seat, the one being this Audi, the booted Audi RS3 LMS with the DSG gearbox, and car 112 qualifying duties being given to Luigi Stanco. So this car currently 10th in the TCR category. Anti-Burri is also in the number 129 LMS Racing by Baz Kooten Racing Seat. And Anti-Burri, although finishing second on the road at Spa last year in the 12 hours, was promoted to the win because of an infringement for the Red Camels Seat. So that car demoted
60
to
overtaking
yes, it was,
wasn't it?
It was going into the code 60. So that difficult moment where you're going from green flag into the purple flagged area, and I mean Evo Brokers still maintains that the car in front slowed too dramatically.
Yeah.
And he had to slam on the anchors, and there was just a little bit of overlap, which is judged as overtaking. So as per the regulations, it was just. But I think some adjustment has been made into this year in the sense that you don't, no longer must you slam on the brakes as soon as you see the purple flags. It's more of a case of easing off and allowing the engine to slow you down to the required 60 kilometres per hour.
Cameron Lawrence in the 152 BMW, just ahead of the TCR Audi at the moment. And Cameron Lawrence, the US driver. And I've got a feeling that the Audi will not be overly happy with Cameron as he comes out of turn 16. Held him up for the last third of the lap, but everybody's out there. There are only 29, 30 cars that can be out here at the moment. The 112 Audi barrels through. Luigi Stanco then into turn 1, not on the optimum line as he turns in. Meantime, coming into the pit lane, it's the Lamera Cup car, the 238. Unusual piece of automotive engineering there with a straight 5 engine mounted transversely across the middle of that car.
Twin turbo, 2.5 litre.
It's a Ford, not an Audi.
Ford
Straight
Duratec.
5.
Yeah, it's a Duratec.
But it is a 5-cylinder. So
it's 5 cylinders. Yes.
What used to be in, and may still be in, the RSs, the original Ford RS Focus had that.
I think that is it. Yeah, as I say, with a turbocharger and about 300.
Did that come from there as a brief association with the guys at Volvo, because they had a straight 5 as well. It's just had the engine cover taken off. Andrew Marriott is down along pit lane.
Yeah, thanks very much. One car to watch for, and this is undoubtedly the 130 car. That's the Liqui Moly team racing Volkswagen, and Jean-Carl Vernet, former Indy Lights champion, of course, is driving that. He's the reigning TCR champion, so I think he's going to be going very quickly in that car. So watch out for Jean-Claude Vernet. JKV, they call him these days. He should be very quick out there.
Thanks, Andrew. Good to hear him from the pit lane.
Currently second fastest, Jean-Carl, with the VW Golf at 2 minutes 11.022, about a third of a second, 0.334 of a second slower than Vincent Rademacher in the 888 car, which is quickest overall.
Not anymore, because James May in the CWS G55 Ginetta, this is the 278 car that has the normal Patisserie Valerie drivers in the car. That has just gone to the top with a 209.839. TCR International Series has visited this circuit end of last year, towards the last third of last year. Did not use this configuration. Used a really weird short configuration where they cut through after turn 2, rejoined just after 9, and then cut through again to come through turn 14 through the little wiggly uphill section that they call the hill circuit here.
I caught my son using that on one of his simulators, and I was most confused because I saw him doing Dubai, and I thought, oh, I can do that. And then it did all sorts of funny things on his track that mine didn't do.
As you steamed off into the barriers at the exit of turn 2, thinking, I'm fine now, there's the nice fast right-hand, oh, bang!
Yes, and I then got the look of rolling eyes from a 16-year-old that only 16-year-olds can do.
Only 16-year-olds can do to their father.
Exactly so.
Oh, Dad!
That's the club course.
Correct.
The internet would... yeah, okay. Because there are 3 separate tracks that could all run at the same time, effectively.
I've been here when that's happened.
Have you? Okay.
Yes. We ran...
There's the oval handling course, which when you're looking at the track map is up to the top left, which incorporates 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then back to 3 again.
Correct.
There's the club course that you've just described, and then there's the one up to the top right, which is the hill handling course, which is 13, and then use the cut through to come in about 2/3 of the way down the back straight, and then use 10, 11, 12, and back to 13 again.
We ran the Le Mans winning Aston Martin GTE car from 2007. Did they win Le Mans in 2007? It was just before Christmas time. That ran on the club circuit, giving passenger rides, and that was the actual chassis that won. On the 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, back to 3 again.
Yes.
We ran the Audi TTs here, and on the other circuit, what did you say that one was called? The oval handling course. Yeah, and on the hill course, the hill handling course, which is down towards the hairpin at 10, 11, up the hill to 12, 13, and down through what is, you like falling off the end of the world down there. It's a bit like the corkscrew at 13, and then down back on to halfway down the mid straight. We did single seaters on that one.
Okay.
And I got let off the hook there, thanks to Darren Turner. He said, oh, don't let Hindhaugh follow people around. You'll just get bored and things will go wrong. Let him drive on his own. So Alex Cabba-Murdoch and I grabbed 2 single-seaters and just went to play on our own and lapped everybody else who was doing the lead and follow about every 3 laps. Absolutely flat-out top speed. Sequential gear changes on the single-seater. It was really good fun. I'm not a single-seater bloke normally.
Meanwhile, back on the track, Cor Oyser, having been one of the first ones out, one of the first ones back into the pits again, the Lumera Cup car 238 was stopped in the pits just in front of it, but is now back on the track again. Meanwhile, at the top of the screens, John?
Well, at the bottom of the screens, actually, car 278 and 237 having best lap times disallowed, turn 6. Exceeding track limits. Now, that's the tricky little run after the kink at turn 5, where you hammer into that and you're braking. I heard your track description, Johnny, on one of the prototype races, and you were absolutely spot on with that. You're braking all the way up to the apex of 6, and it's dead easy to get off the side of the circuit and go wide. So that's why those cars, 237, 238, have had a lap deleted. Back down to the pits. Bruce has got another victim.
Cor Oyser, I can't count how many 24-hour races you've done, but you're back again. BMW M3 running in the SP3 class. How's it going?
We had a lot of grumblings this morning, but this is the first time the car ran fine with good the gearbox. We had a problem with the gearbox, and electronically I think we saw the problem now. It didn't miss a shift and it didn't jump out of shift, so out of gear. So I hope this will be the basis to do well in the race.
I think it was Mackay Snow just took over from you. What's his plan?
His plan is to learn a lot this weekend. The kid is pretty quick. I've done only one 24-hour race in Texas last year, and I want to do more of this stuff to gain his experience. He's a calm guy, and he's going to make it. I'm no doubt about that.
Well, I'm sure Mackay will get on with it. Cor, best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Young Mr. Snow, part of a racing dynasty in the US. His brother Madison Snow has already won the IMSA Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge USA by Yokohama, and of course his mum Melanie Snow won, was I think the first female driver to win an IMSA championship when she won GTC a couple of years ago. 209.174 was the 278 time that was disallowed,
and that would have been
top of the class.
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of why I passed the little note across to you, John. Yeah, so that time, it's James May at the wheel of the CWS car, and it was good enough to be fastest, but judged to be overstepping the marks, exceeding track limits, and so got disallowed. That's why the official timing lists show the TCR class car of Vincent Rademacher 888 back at the top. He's done a 2 minutes 9.534, 4/10 of a second slower than the 278 car, which is the black and yellow Ginetta just heading down into the hairpin at the far end of the back straight, John.
The 232, Charlie Hollings on board, has just gone by Mackay Snow and just took a huge amount out of the car under braking. Fabulous stuff to watch. Charlie Hollings, very much a Ferrari man normally, but has brought into this Ginetta team, and I've got a feeling he's on a quick one. As Reinus Nitzis in the AC Motorsport Audi has just gone back out again. That car with a 2:19.8, still best in TCR. SP3, James May has the best time for the CWS 278 Ginetta. Then it's Charlie in the Optimum Ginetta. In Cup 1, Michael Schrey in the Hoffa Racing BMW leads that category. That's the number 131 car. And in A2, it's the Peugeot RCZ. Niels Nybo in the Johnson Consulting Peugeot there. And we're heading down to the pit lane for Antti Burry. Not my Antti Burry, just the Antti Burry. Andrew.
Brewster TV interview
Andrew,
after Andrew with 888 Vincent Rademacher.
Hello, Andrew.
Yes, standing by.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I'm not sure if you're getting me. I'm here with Antti Puri, who's just climbed out of his car here. Antti, a long time ago since we saw you dominating Formula Ford in Britain, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been a few years.
There's a lot has happened since then.
How much have you driven this car?
It is. Now we are moved from formulas to touring cars.
Are you enjoying it?
For sure.
And what's your plan for this season? You're going to be doing the...
We are going to be doing selected rounds of endurance, but main race will be German TCR.
And that's a competitive series, isn't it? German TCR is very competitive.
It is. That's why we want to be there.
He's got a wonderful beard these days, as Antti Puri. Thanks very much, Antti.
Vincent Rademacher, the 888 Audi in the TCR class, going very well. You just handed it over. Who's driving now?
Netis, the Letton guys. Since we put the car on the track in the beginning, the car was already good right in the beginning, and we just fine-tuned the car each time we go out, and we find always a little bit in the car. So it's really good setup at the moment, and I know this track very well because it's my night time here in the 24 hours. So yeah, it's going well for sure.
And you know this car relatively well because I understand you raced it last year.
Yeah, we raced first time with this guy in 24 hours in Barcelona, and TCR category I drove also in 2016 with the Golf in the Belgium Championship. So I know that kind of car. I know it very well.
Good. That's why you look so relaxed. Thank you very much, Vincent.
Thank you.
Paul, news of more times disallowed and good times as well.
This is actually not new news. This is old news because we did quickly say that there were times disallowed. What I wasn't able to do at that moment was to say what the times were, but effectively they were the two fastest times of the session thus far. The 278 James May time we already told you about. The other one was by 232, another of the Ginettas, and it was Charlie Hollings at the wheel. He overstepped the mark. 2 minutes 9.418 was his time. Since then, however, Charlie Hollings has taken the optimum Ginetta out again and has gone quicker yet again, John.
209.333. Now in second place, though, Rallycross Nitzis. Stand back from the circuit a little bit here, Johnny, because this man likes to be off the circuit as much as he does on.
I think it was, that's the Vincent Rademacher time in the 888 car.
Right. But
so, yes, it is, but that car has now changed from Vincent to Rallycross Nitzis.
Rallycross Nitzis has an interesting background, Johnny.
Well, yeah, youngest ever winner in the FIA World Rallycross Championship, and that's where he plies his trade, in fact. Rallycross racing, a category invented for television in the UK in the 1980s, I think. And
earlier than that.
Was it 70s?
I think it was earlier than that, wasn't it? It was 68.
Really?
But, yeah.
So
60s, I think it might have been 66 or 67.
And it was on TV in the 60s?
Maybe.
Okay.
No, they didn't have TV that early.
Not where I lived.
Not at my road.
Anyway, it is a category that obviously takes in asphalt and let's hope that he therefore keeps to the track limits. Rallycross Nitzis, who is I think the only Latvian driver in the entry, but that's the treble 8 car, the AC Motorsport Audi RS3.
Lydden Hill, of course, is where Rallycross started. April 1968. No, that's not right. 1967, 4th of February 1967. So we're coming up to a big anniversary.
We're past it, aren't we?
Past it, yes, of course, because we're in 18 now. Fantastic.
We'll keep making that mistake.
Lydden Hill between Dover and Canterbury, and I have worked there, and I did a Rallycross meeting there live for TV, and I was Diana Binks couldn't do it one time, and so I was Diana and went and did the standing in front of the camera and trying not to get knocked over by cars bit. It was fabulous.
Both of the Ginettas who had times disallowed have now done times which are legal and have countered, and so we have a Ginetta 1-2 again with James May in the 278 CWS car and Charlie Hollings now bringing the 232 car back into the pits, but their times then are 2 minutes 9.039 for James May and a 2 minutes 9.333 for Charlie Hollings in the car number 232. And those two then first and second ahead of the 888 car of Vincent Rademacher, who did the time now in the hands of Reinis Nittis.
Who says you can't drift a front-wheel drive car? The 216 Seat TCR, at the moment, the Modena Motorsports car, sitting in fourth position with Matthias Besch just absolutely throwing it through 5, 6, 7, and then balancing the car through 8 and 9, the carousel. He's on the long back straight now. He gets out his e-reader and has a bit of a read before he brakes at the end. Fabulous bit of car control as the back end stepped out. In fact, the only 3 Hankooks, Johnny, in contact for most of the run through 3, 4, 5 and 6. Tremendous stuff.
Yeah, well, that's the way we want to see touring cars raced around here, isn't it?
What is it
most on 3 wheels.
What is it that Martin Haven says? Rear wheels on touring cars, only there to keep the exhaust from dragging on the ground.
Yeah, well, it's a fair point. And tucked in behind is another TCR car, although that's actually a cup car, strictly speaking, but the Peugeot 308 Racing Cup car permitted into the TCR category. Worldwide, indeed, it is technically a TCR car along with a Racing Cup car. Now, machine being pushed down the pit lane, and I don't think that's just moving it away from a penalty box, for instance, down towards the team.
They don't seem to be rushing about it, do they, Johnny?
They don't. I was trying to work out how far.
I think that car's in the next session, actually.
Okay, that would make sense. It looked almost like a Porsche rear wing. I have to say I couldn't see all of the car, just the rear wing and the gentleman propelling it. So Julian Griffin in the ATEC DXB Seat Leon with a bit of pace to try and find. This is the 8th placed TCR car. SP3 though leading the way at the moment in terms of pace to Ginetta G55s.
In fact, there's a third one in 5th position with Bradley Liebenberg for CWS, the second of the CWS cars, the 178. That's the normal CWS, if you see what I mean. We've got Adam Hayes jumping in with Père et Fils, May, Père and Fils, who we normally see campaigning that very lovely Porsche. That car still on its way back, I presume, from Texas. Costs being kept down by sea travel, and probably not still on its way back, but didn't get back in time to get it out here is probably the thinking now.
You had to be on the freighter before Christmas in order to to get here in time, unless you did your own transport, and that obviously isn't necessarily the easiest thing to do, moving cars around.
Or the most cost efficient.
Indeed not. Fastest in the BMW Cup class at the moment is number 131, the Hoffer Racing powered by Bonk, and that's being driven by Michael Schrei, who was the 2017 VLN champion. Outright champion in that series this year, so he certainly has the pace and is fairly comfortable. Well, I say fairly comfortable. He's half a second quicker than the next BMW Cup class car, the Sorgren Sport car number 151, in Yannick Mettler's hands, who's second in the Cup 1 class.
We are a bonk down, aren't we, Johnny?
Speak for yourself.
Yes,
we are, sadly. Because the 127 car, too badly damaged in... this was the test session rather than even free practice, wasn't it?
Correct, it was the optional private testing session on Wednesday.
Yes, I never did get to see how badly damaged the Audi was, but
Joe
Paul
saw it. It was all round the front end of that bonk Audi.
Joe got photographs of it, and
front left corner.
Yeah,
is what he's mimed to me.
I think it connected with another car.
It was the barrier.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Okay, very barrier-shaped damage then, clearly, on that machine. And yes, they've tried desperately to fix it, but it looks like we are going to be one TCR car down to make that now a 14-car class within the TCE series.
Further improvement for John Barnes at the wheel of the Century Motorsport Ginetta. So it's now Ginetta 1-2-3, Century 2-2-9. John Barnes leads the way. 2 minutes 8.951 his lap time. That's just a hundredth of a second quicker than John did during the free practice session earlier today. So he's pretty consistent. Oh, he's gone even quicker though. 2 minutes 7 now, 0.871 for John Barnes in the Century Ginetta. Adam Hayes is now in the 278 car that was being driven by James May, but Adam has taken it over. James May doing the quickest time for that car in the end of 2 minutes 9.039 after the various disqualified lap times. And William Moore is at the wheel of the Optimum Motorsport Ginetta now. He's taken that car over from Charlie Hollings. Now in the free practice session this morning, William Moore was actually quicker than Charlie Hollings, so we'll see whether or not William Moore is going to be able to.
Is that Willie? Is that Willie Moore?
Not the Willie Moore.
Not the Willie Moore. He used to drive a Porsche and the Nürburgring and all of that. Drove with Marino a couple of times.
No,
that's another William
right.
Moore. There's 3 William Moores in that case.
Right.
He's known as Wilmore, by the way. It's a bit like Jonathan Adam.
Right,
okay.
Calling
him William. So
right, so we'll call him Wilmore, and that'll remove any confusion with any other Moores.
John Barnes now behind the wheel of the car that sits on top of the timing screen. Let's go down to Andrew. I hadn't forgotten about you, Andrew.
Yeah, John Barnes is a name we haven't seen at top of the timing screens for a few years, but wind your clock back about 12 or 13 years and John Barnes was absolutely the man to beat in Caterhams. He was the fastest person I've ever seen in a Caterham. And then I think, if I remember rightly, he had a season in Formula Palmer Audi, which I think he might have won, or certainly might have done the Winter Series, something like that. But nice to see John Barnes back in a competitive car and going well.
Andrew Marriott down in the pit lane as the time ticks away to under 15.5 minutes time, and the Ginetta dives into the pit lane. Adam Hayes has just gone out in the CWS number 278. Vincent Rademacher heading out again in the AC Motorsport Audi RS3 LMS. Now all of the top 3 are SP3s. They're all Ginetta G55s, 229, 278, 232. Separated though by 1.4 seconds. A 207.8 from that 229 car. That's not hanging about. That's very good. That's, I think, faster than we saw in their own practice session earlier on, Paul.
Yes, it was. That's right. The John Barnes' fastest time, a 2 minutes 8.9. So to get it down to a 2 minutes 7.8, he certainly has found a very good lap. And the thing with that car as well, this is a Century Motorsport car. The other drivers of that car, Dominic Paul, Mark Farmer and Nathan Freak, none of them are slouchers. And that car, I think, will be driven very consistently by all 4 of its drivers across the board there. So that gap of more than a second now separating John Barnes' time from the next 2 Ginettas. Then we've got a bit of a mix-up with the TCR cars in 4th, 5th and 6th places, because we've got Vincent Rademacher's Audi ahead of Matthias Besch with the Modena Motorsport Seat. And Matthias, although he's second quickest in the TCR class, has already gone quicker than he went in the free practice session this morning. So he's certainly been pushing on as fast as he can. And then John Carverne, another, I won't call him a refugee, but someone else who's come out of higher categories of racing. He is in 3rd place with the Liqui Moly VW Golf TCR car. But the 3 of them in TCR separated by 0.334 of a second, so nothing really to separate those 3 cars.
Yeah, Audi, Seat, Volkswagen, Seat, Audi, Seat, Audi, and then the 308 Racing Cup car. Not really the same. Guillaume Roman actually pushing that Team Ultron Peugeot very well indeed, that 308 car. The 171 Johnson Consulting RCZ, very nimble little car, leading its class at the moment. And that is the A2 category. Couple of Renault Clios as well, the Sicily Motorsport cars. Harold Rettich and Frank Bird. Frank Bird in the fueling at the moment. Let's go down and hear from Nathan Freak, identified by Paul Truswell and Johnny Palmer as part of a very capable team. Bruce is down there now.
15 minutes of qualifying remaining, Nathan, and your car is top of the pile. Great laps put in there by John Barnes, but not blowing your trumpet, but you've got a very, very strong quartet of drivers in the car, haven't you?
Yeah, we have, very much so. I mean, John's obviously just done a fantastic job, stellar lap, I believe, probably the fastest lap of a Ginetta around here before. And Mark and Dominic have, both proven themselves to be very worthy competitors. It always feels a little bit disjointed at the start of these weekends because you have 4 drivers who are trying to get track time, but often it's only 3, 4, 5 lap stints each. So we've really focused on giving Mark and Dominic the lion's share today to try and get them up to speed, see the bigger picture. This is my 3rd year now, so I know what the car does, I know which way the track goes, and I think it's starting to pay dividends a little bit for us.
Yeah, their overalls still have Aston Martin logos on the back, don't they? They've changed over from last year's racing. We have, of course, this time the split qualifying session with the Touring Car Endurance Series. We're having split race, effectively, tomorrow, but all together. But separating the qualifying, you think it's a good thing?
Yeah, I mean, we're in a little bit of limbo with that, I suppose, because technically we're a GT4 car, but we're not classified as a GT car this weekend. Before the weekend came, we decided which class we were going to do, and we really couldn't. It was a tough one for us, but because we've done SP3 the last 2 years, we decided that was the right call for us. What it's effectively done is made us the fastest car in our class now, so that's quite nice to have P1 on the car when you're going around in qualifying, being outright fastest. And for sure, the qualifying was a lot quieter this year and able to get some clear laps, which is also good. Don't know how it will pan out tomorrow, we'll see, but maybe next year we'll be on the GT4 side of it, who knows.
Nathan, thanks for explaining it. Thanks very much.
Nathan Frigg down in the pit lane with Bruce Jones, and the 229 has still got that number 1, although it's sitting in the pits at the moment. Adam Hayes is the man trying to take that away as Vincent Rademacher has propelled the Audi RS3, the TCR car, up to 2nd place, the 888 numbered car from AC Motorsport, and he is now within 1.1 seconds. Adam Hayes on a good lap at the moment as he heads down the back straight, Johnny.
Yeah, the 278 car, which is the James and Paul May car, by the way, so I'm sure it probably has got some patisserie Valerie detailing on there, but it's not in the full livery that we've become used to on the Porsche. That's definitely a Colin White Services liveried car, the black with the turquoise detailing on it. A couple of those cars due to be here. Yes, CWS Engineering being driven now by Bradley Liedenberg. That car is 5th, but the Adam Hayes one, the 278, is 3rd.
Up into 2nd place then, as I mentioned, for Vincent Rademacher, a 209.003 in that 888 red, white and black Audi, and Andrew has more on that car.
Yeah, what to add on that? Remember Vincent Rademacher racing a Volvo in the British Touring Car Championship in 1999, and of course the following year he was in a Vauxhall, so he was a front runner in the British Touring Car Championship. But way back in 1994, Vincent finished 2nd in the British Formula 3 Championship to Jan Magnussen. Gareth Rees was 3rd, and Dario Franchitti was 4th that year in that championship. And also racing against Rademacher in the 1994 British Formula 3 Championship was Zach Brown, Christian Horner and Mark Genet. So that was a stellar year. But Rademacher is a class act. He might be 50 now, but he's still fast.
Means he'd get downgraded to a bronze driver shortly. He'd be really worth some money. That back in the day when British F3, Paul, was a must-do. It had to be on the CV of any single-seater driver coming up.
That's right, and of course in those days as well, it wasn't impossible to see drivers going straight from British Formula 3 into Formula 1, into Grand Prix racing. Vincent never actually got there, but how do you feel? I mean, Vincent was a star before he got to Formula 3, because Johnny's just looking up his record now, but from memory, he had a very successful Formula Ford career before he even stepped into the British Formula 3 Championship.
Yeah, very, very experienced driver. Good interview as well. I remember him in his touring car days when we started off Talker Radio, but I suppose a precursor to what we're doing now. I certainly ran alongside the Radio Le Mans service that we were doing back in those days. Johnny?
Started off in the Benelux Formula Ford Championship. That was in the mid-80s, but then moved to the UK in 1992. Drove in the British Formula Ford Championship, finished 4th in the points at the end of that year. And that was the start of his single-seater career.
Yeah, he had a successful run in the Formula Ford Festival as well, I think, in '92. It's one of those that he didn't win the Formula Ford Festival, but I have a feeling he was at least in the running for a podium position or something. John?
Ginetta's first and second again as the CWS freight train rolls on. Bradley Liebenberg has brought the number 178 car into second position with a 2:08.7. That's the black, mostly black of the CWS cars, with that teal colouring along the side. It's almost Leighton House Miami blue, the detailing on that car, isn't it? Which is always one of my favourite colours of racing cars. And also Darren Turner's as well. The Aston Martin Works driver fashioned his helmet colours after that Leighton House Miami blue colour. Down towards the heavy braking area for the 178 at the end of the back straight now. Turning right-handed, don't have to use all the exit there. Straighten the car up and then get yourself set up for the left-hander at turn 11. Quite a steep climb, deceptive, up to turn 12. Tricky, double apex. Make a nice late turn in. You can help the turn in there with the hill, but then you crest the hill and you've got to be very careful on throttle application on the exit as you dive down towards the kink at 13 and then into 14, which is the left-handed hairpin right in front of us. You can take a huge amount of speed into there, lots of time to be made. Just let it breathe in the centre of the corner. It is a double apex, and if you can get yourself into the second apex properly, the car's nice and straight when you pop out over the brow. If you don't, you'll see people losing the back end there as the car unloads at the back end. We have seen people in the past there, Johnny, just coming over the brow before the turn 15, actually spearing off to driver's left, which when you see those accidents, you think, how's he got all the way over there? But he gets the tank slapper on and spears across to the left. That's not unusual here.
We'll have to catch up with Bradley Liebenberg across the weekend because this could well be his first ever car race. A massive background in karting, but he's only 18, from Johannesburg, and will have a birthday in a couple of weeks actually, so nearing the end of his teens. But whether he approached Colin White or Colin did put some feelers out to get these young South Africans into his team, I'm not sure. But Jack Constable, who's raced in the British Ginetta Championship with Colin, both from the AM elements of that. You've got pros, you've got AMs in the Ginetta Super Cup these days. So Jack and Colin from that, and Bradley Liebenberg could be a real talent. 5 minutes to go. It was a good year for South African drivers last year, with Sheldon van der Linde doing very nicely indeed in GT racing, and he's racing with his brother Kelvin at Daytona at the end of the month. Another race you can follow live on the Radio Show Limited network of channels. That'll be on RS2 IMSA Radio. Extended coverage across the whole week with a special midweek motorsport from our IMSA Broadcast Centre on Wednesday, overlooking the Speedway, and then Continental Tyre, as well as the IMSA WeatherTech Championship for the full 24 hours, and the fate of those lovely Rolex Daytona watches. Watches to be won here as well, of course. The BMW chronograph, the BRM chronographs, excuse me. And the BRM chronographs trophies going to the winners of 2 different championships that are contesting the Hankook 24 Hours of Dubai this weekend. This is the TCE for touring cars and the slightly slower of the GT classes.
And a further improvement there for the CWS Ginetta, number 178. This is the, sorry, 178, I should put the emphasis on the 1, because the yes. It's the number 178, which is the Patisserie Valerie liveried car. Bradley Liebenberg has just cut that gap. Remember, it was, he's got it down. It's 2 minutes at 08.605 now, puts him just 0.7 of a second behind the John Barnes time. John has brought his car into the pits meanwhile, and with still 3 minutes of this session remaining, I do get the impression that the track is really quietened down a little bit, and if you do have a car that's on a good set of tyres, now might be the time to go out and set a quick time, because it's not busy out there, John.
What's the regs for tyres? Can you throw as many tyres as you want at this qualifying session?
As you can afford, absolutely.
Right, okay. 232 just going back out again. That's Will Moore for Optimum Motorsports G55 Ginetta, and he's warming the front Hankook's up as he heads through the final corner and across the line. He's still moving left and right. This is his outlap. He might get one more.
He will get one more.
He'll have to get a bit of a wiggle on, won't he?
Yeah, provided he doesn't go at very slow speeds. And he seems to be speeding himself up a bit now.
Down through turn 1, front end of the grey and fluorescent lime green. Ginetta diving as he was on the brakes there in the difficult braking area. Downhill braking area is always difficult to pick your braking area. Uphill braking areas, gravity helps you slow down. Into the flick-flack and through turn 5, 6, run 6 and 7 almost together. You sort of have to get the first bit right to get the second. There's so many places around here, Johnny, where it's a combination of corners.
Yes, it is, and I suppose if you get one wrong, then that scuppers your chance of getting a good run through the oval handling course of the lap, if you like, with 3, 4, 5 and 6 all thrown at you in quick succession. But the Leeds-based Will Moore heading now down this long straight between turns 9 and 10. He'll get this lap and probably one more, should he wish, for the 232, the Dayglow black and grey colours of this machine, which is run by Optimum Motorsport. So of the top 5, 4 of them are Ginetta G55s, the only interloper being the AC Motorsport Audi RS3, which is parked up in pit lane now after Vincent Rademacher did a splendid job to, by the looks of things, take pole position in the TCR division.
The whole field has been out there and set lap times now, with the one exception of that Bonk Motorsport car number 127. Everybody else has set very reasonable lap times, no problems for any of them, which is always a good thing. The whole point of qualifying really is just to decide what order you're going to line up in. What you don't want to do is to go chasing setup changes on the car just to set a lap time over one single lap. You've got a 24-hour race ahead of you that you're supposed to be preparing for, and it can prove a tempting dessert to go off and try and set something in qualifying, and you haven't got to go there.
26 seconds left as the 178 Bradley Liebenberg driven CWS engineering car, currently in second, goes across the line. Nah, he's lifted out. He's lifted out of it. I don't think he's going for it. No, he's not leaning on that car as he goes through turn number 4. By the way, the tracker is incredibly accurate, isn't it? When you look at what's happening out on the circuit. We'll get the pole sitters as soon as everyone has gone across the line. At the moment, it looks like an SP3 car is going to take the overall pole in the TCE category.
Cracking effort from Will Moore, though, with an absolute best through Sector 2, and puts his car up to 3rd fastest.
He hasn't seen the checkered flag yet.
No, because he was going down the main straight with 2.5 minutes on the clock, and he's done a 2:08.7, so he can squeeze one more out of it. But 43.1, still pushing reasonably hard. John Barnes did a 42.5 through the first sector, so that's already 0.6 of a second off. I wouldn't be surprised if Will Moore thinks that's enough as well. But we'll watch his progress on this final lap, should he wish to use it.
So, pole sitting interviews to come as it stands at the moment. The 171 Johnson Consulting Peugeot is on pole for A2. A1, Cup 1 rather, is the 131 Hofer powered M235.
Should mention actually that Will Moore was a winner here last year in the SP3 and the GT4 part of the race. He was racing with Adrian Barwick, Stuart Lynn and Irishman Daniel O'Brien. But Will Moore has good pedigree here at the Dubai 24 Hours. 178 coming through then, driven by Bradley Liebenberg, and hardly surprising to see that car peel off into pit lane. Young Bradley had backed things off quite a bit.
I think Will Moore is going to stay out there.
Yes,
it was a quick
he
time
has.
through the second sector as well, Johnny.
Well, no, that's the 3rd sector. Absolute best, a 35.0, and he improves again, a 208.697. What it doesn't do is improve his position, though.
Well, overall it does, but not in SP3. Oh, no, he was already third.
He's done 2 really quick laps, but 92 thousandths of a second of the CWS engineering Ginetta, but that car number 178, driven latterly by Bradley Liebenberg, will actually start on the front row for the TCE Series race alongside the 229 Century Motorsport Ginetta and Will Moore. Despite every effort, lost quite a bit of time in that opening segment then. 0.6 of a second shy he was of the John Barnes time. So William Moore, along with his crew at Optimum Motorsport, will start from 3rd position. And then the first non-SP3 car will be the TCR Audi RS3 of AC Motorsport.
Right, let's have a look at how they stand at the end of the TCE qualifying. It's a triumvirate of Yorkshire grit. 3 Ginettas, the 229, 178 and 232 from respectively Century, CWS and Optimum. 3 different Ginetta teams within 0.8 of a second of each other that lock out the first 3 positions of the TCE Championship for the first competition of 2018. AC Motorsport have the TCR pole in 4th position. And running down, it's a whole slew of TCR cars from positions 6 through to 10, all from the Volkswagen Audi group, or Volkswagen AG, with Seat, Volkswagen and Audi all represented there. Have to go a little further down to see our next pole sitter. That will be the Cup 1 class car, and that is an awful long way down. The Hoffa Racing machine down in 21st position, so behind Core Oyser Racing's BMW M3. They were the first car that went out, if you remember, in the SP3 category. And McKay Snow doing some driving for Core Oyser there. So 2 more pole sitters to tell you about. 21st position overall, the Hofer Racing powered by Bonk Motorsport Cup 1 BMW 131 in 21st position. And the A2 class, 28th, 29th and 30, Peugeot just have a slight advantage over the 2 Sicily Motorsport Renault Clios. Let's head to the pit lane and to Bruce Jones. Bruce not quite ready to speak to our pole sitters as the GT cars are beginning to get rolled out. The shadows are getting longer, and pretty much all of the pit lane now, Johnny, actually in shadow, with the building that we're in providing the cover from the evening sunshine.
Yeah, that'll be, I'm sure, a relief to the teams as well, because although they're not in fireproof overalls, you don't need to be at a Creventic promoted event because the fueling's done in an entirely separate location from the pit lane. But nevertheless, the high-vis jackets over clothing will generate a fair bit of heat, I'm sure. And it's just nice to take the edge off that 24, 25 degrees Celsius heat.
Right, let's start picking up the pole interviews. Here's Bruce Jones down in the pit lane.
Pole position, the SP class leading the touring car endurance grid. John Barnes, you make it hard for yourself. You've never driven the Ginetta before. You've never driven at Dubai Circuit. You made it look pretty easy.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, well, that's why we come and do this, isn't it? Because if you go and do something that's easy, it's not as much fun. So, yeah, good challenge this weekend. I hadn't been to the circuit and hadn't driven this Ginetta before either. So, but the car is mega. Really like it. It's just like a little go-kart. Such good fun to drive. And the circuit as well is brilliant. Absolutely love the circuit. I've obviously watched your coverage before and seen this race on TV, but when you actually get here, the circuit's absolutely brilliant. I love it. So really pleased with the time we did, and that was a great session.
Do you also find there's a fair bit more gradient than you see on TV? Because TV always flattens it, but there are some climbs here.
Yeah, it looks completely flat and a little bit lifeless on TV, I've got to be honest. But when you drive it, it's awesome. There's some really good camber around some of the corners, lots of undulation change, and yeah, like I say, I really like it. It's been good.
Well, great session. You're top of the grid for the touring car endurance runners. Of course, the GT3 runners and the GT4s go out of the next session. Crowded track for them. You had the clear track and you made it work. Well done, John Barnes.
Thank you. Cheers. Thank you very much.
Bruce Jones there with the TCE Series pole sitter. John Barnes, Century Motorsport. 2 minutes 7.871. We believe that's the fastest an SP3 class Ginetta has ever gone around this circuit, Paul.
No, absolutely, ever. And I think what we're going to see in a few moments' time when we get the GT Series cars coming out for their qualifying session is more of the same, only with GT3s going faster than any GT3 car has ever gone around the Dubai Autodrome. So, yeah, I mean, the the baby classes were spectacular enough, the TCE classes were spectacular enough. I think this is going to be even better.
So stand by your beds, no need to go anywhere. We've got the new for 2018 name of the championship. It's the Hankook 24H GT Series coming next. But first, let's remind you of the action from the TCE qualifying session for the 2018 Hankook 24 Hours of Dubai. So with the evening sunshine casting long shadows now over the pit lane here at the Dubai Autodrome, time to turn our attention to the GT categories and the Hankook 24-hour GT Series, the first event of 2018. Johnny Palmer alongside me. First thing that we've got to say about this is it's going to be more difficult for these guys to put a time in, because in the past, in particular the GT3, the SP6 cars, those guys have been used to having the place to themselves, haven't they?
Yes, true. So it's going to be 60-odd cars all thrown at the track at once, and the question of whether you can find a little bit of a gap in the traffic here and there. So there's an element of luck along with pure pace. We may well find the odd car just easing back a little bit to generate that pocket of air, and hopefully they'll be able to then sustain it across the 5.5 kilometre circuit here at the Dubai Autodrome. But this promises to be a very, very busy session indeed. 30 cars out in the last one, and we are doubling that for the GT series. Promises to be a little bit louder out there as well, with the mixture of 6.2 litre Mercedes-Benz engines in the front of the AMGs. We've got the V10s from the Audis and the Lamborghinis, 5.2 litre V10s, and then the traditional flat six from the various iteration and various version of Porsche, whether that be GT3 spec or the many cup cars that we've got in this category. Remember, the 991 class, which is for Porsche cup cars, actually separated into two further divisions this year, Pro and Am. There are 3 991 Pro cars, there are 7 991 Am cars, but with everyone out on the track at once and only 45 minutes to try and set a time, certainly this could be high stakes. So cars just being released from their position on the pit lane apron. One of the early takers is an SP2 BMW parked at the front, at the very end of the pit lane. And now a couple of Porsches joining the party, including one of the Caymans, the jungle liveried Mercedes in the sequence as well, and the number 19 Mercedes from MP Motorsport, the Daniel de Jong, Henk de Jong and Bert de Heijs Mercedes, just heading down pit road, in fact into the fueling area in readiness for this GT Series qualifying.
Let's head down to Bruce. We promised you a chat with some of the other pole sitters. The first of the pole sitters other than the SP3 class was TCR. Vincent Rademacher for AC Motorsport is with Bruce Jones.
The touring car in BTCC was with Triple Eight engineering team. Yeah.
Yeah, but now it's TCR, it's with the Audi, and you just took pole here, so very good session.
Yeah, very, very good. Yeah, again, from the beginning of the weekend, the car is good, and we improve it every time we put the car on the track. It's improving, and I feel really comfortable in the car, and I know again this track very well. And the team did really, really nice job on the car, really perfect.
And what's it like having a Rallycross driver with you, Rinus Nittis?
Yeah, he's improving a lot because he did some laps during the qualifying between my two stints, and he's now up to the game, so he learned very quickly, and he looked at a lot of video and stuff like that in car camera, and he's improving all the time. So I think we have a good team of the 4 drivers. I think are quad equal. So if we have, yeah, it's always the same in 24 hours anyway. So no accident, no contact, and a free run. It will be very good at the end of the race, I think.
Well, good luck for a clean run. Thank you, Vincent.
Thank you very much.
Good to hear Vincent's voice again, and Bruce Jones doing the interview down there in the pit lane. You don't want to get rid of experience like that out of any sport, Johnny, do you? You know, those are the guys who need to stay in the sport and mentor potentially the people coming through.
Yeah, experience counts for an awful lot, but that's the one great thing about motorsport, I suppose. A sports person's career in motor racing can be extended, well, in some cases into their early 70s. I think we've had drivers, if not older, yes. And you've got still the pace onto the right foot, and as long as reaction speeds haven't dropped too significantly, then why not continue your love of motor racing? It's existed probably from year dot, and great to have a name as recognisable as Vincent Rademacher still around, and not only offering his speed in the car, but also helping the youngsters come through as well.
You're listening to coverage live from trackside here at the Dubai Autodrome for the first round of the 24-hour series for GTs, the Hankook 24-hour GT series for 2018. Paul Trustwell, Johnny Palmer and me, John Hindhaugh, in the booth. Paul?
And I think all 45 minutes of this session are going to be worth watching, John. I don't think it's going to be necessarily right at the beginning that we see the quick times. I think what we saw, remember, during the free practice session this morning was right at the end of the session, Tyrone Blakemolen went out in the Black Falcon Mercedes and set the quickest time of that session. And with this kind of evening qualifying session, I think it's really going to be towards the end of the session when we see the times really being gone for, especially if the track starts to get quiet towards the end of the session.
Let's go down to Nick Damon, who's taking over from Bruce Jones. He's with Adam Christodoulou.
Adam Christodoulou, Mercedes driver, previous winner in Mercedes on the 85 car, but you're sharing with 3 guys who've become the Porsche experts of the Creventic series.
Yeah, so no, it's been good. I'm racing with last year's, like you said, 991 champions from the Creventic Championship, and they've upgraded to the AMG GT3 for this year. So a bit of a tough task, obviously, straight into the deep end. Dubai 24 Hours, the biggest Creventic race during the whole season. So we've got a lot to learn, and hey, it's been fun so far. The drivers are just getting to know the car and just exploring its possibilities and where its strengths are. And so just about to go out for qualifying, and we'll see how we get on in the race.
Well, of course, you know this car very well, or the GT3 version, and you were driving it only last week, but in very different weather conditions and a very different circuit.
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, I was lucky enough to be at Daytona last week for the Raw before the 24. And, yeah, it was 2 degrees there. It was absolutely freezing. So, yeah, it's nice to be somewhere a little bit warmer. Hopefully it's not too hot in the race because, of course, with the higher temperatures, it makes it a lot tougher on drivers, on tyres and on the cars. And so hopefully during the race it'll be a nice consistent temperature. The night time's always fun here. Plenty of places to overtake. The track's very wide. And also it's a little bit easier on us as drivers as well in the evening as well.
Charlie Putnam's just taken the car out. What's the plan for qualifying? Because I assume you'll get a set of fresh tyres and a chance to go for it later.
Yeah, so for qualifying, Charlie's starting, so he didn't get any laps this morning. We just ran out of time trying to get all the drivers through the car. So he's just going out for 10-15 minutes, and then we'll come in. We should be low on the fuel at that point. put the new tyres on, and off we go and see what she's got.
Hopefully he's got a lot. Thanks, Adam.
Thank you. Cheers.
The second qualifying session is for the second championship racing here. A number of you tweeting to us at RSL_studio to ask why they split the field up. Well, first of all, you don't want 90 cars trying to qualify. In the past, it's been split slightly differently in terms of the, I suppose, Johnny, the performance, the potential performance of the cars. But broadly speaking, along the lines of touring cars and GTs. Now it's between the TCE Championship, which we've just had, the 24-hour, the Hankook 24-hour TCE Series, and the Hankook 24-hour GT Series. Spin for the 201 early on. That's the electric blue. It looks actually quite a little darker blue in these evening conditions. KTM Crossbow. That's the CCS racing car. Sort of a, it's almost, if I can use an advertising analogy, it's almost Cadbury's Dairy Milk wrapper blue, isn't it?
It's very Bourneville, yes. I'll give you that.
Bourneville was always dark red
right,
in my days.
No, what I mean is the town of Bourneville.
Yes, sorry.
You go around and all the signs of that colour.
Are there?
Yeah, yes. It's down the road from me, so I'm, a frequent visitor.
Are you?
Yeah.
Get your misshapes and
it's
your
straight out of
rejects.
Roald Dahl in that, you get off the train at Bourneville Station and literally the air is thick with that scent of chocolate. It's brilliant. I like to spend days off there, regularly.
Brilliant.
Anyway, so there's the 201 car. Yes, you're right. It is a sort of Cadbury's purple. Reminds me a little bit of a Super GT car as well. I think Tom's possibly. We've seen that car and that livery for at least the last couple of years. The CCS Racing gang and Cheryl Arendt doing the opening part of qualifying there. Meanwhile, Christian Frankenhout, perhaps unsurprisingly, driving the Hoffa Racing Mercedes, but Indy Dontje, Dutch driver, across the line now in car 25, sets a 202.912, and that is immediately bettered by the A6 Pro Attempto Racing Lamborghini of Clemens Schmidt. Bit further back on the road, Christopher Mies over the line, and Christopher Haase. Now, Paul said we would get those two mixed up. It doesn't help that they're on similar speeds either, but Mies and Haase
together on the timing screen.
Exactly. 201.4 for Mies, 201.6 for Christopher Haase in his Optimum Motorsport Audi. And the changes of times at the top starting to calm down a little bit now. Stuart Hall, the latest though to occupy provisional pole very, very early on in the session, but in an A6 AM GP Extreme Renault, and they're both now in A6 AM, by the way, the GP Extreme Renaults. Stuart Hall does a 201.039, and that's the best of anyone.
Held up by Philip Phoenix. No, that's not the 248 Phoenix car. That is another one, the KTM Crossbow, 246. The Crossbow. That's Peter Cox. I can't believe I said that. I apologise to Peter, but he did actually hold Stuart Hall up. I'm afraid there.
I think he's probably just dialing himself in more than doing anything deliberate. Yet to have a time under 2 minutes, but I don't think that's going to be very far off before we do get into the 1 minute 59s. And I confidently expect we're going to be down into the 1 minute 57s when it comes to pole position. And in fact, just looking down the list, I reckon all of the top 20 are capable of breaking that 2 minute barrier. Now, bear in mind that the 2 minute barrier was only broken at any point during the race meeting some 5-6 years ago. 2013 was the year that we broke into the 1 minute 59s. The fact that we're going to have, I'll suggest that 20 times 20 cars will be getting under the 2 minutes is a sign of progress indeed. And the track as well. I mean, you mentioned this earlier on, John, is in absolutely super condition, and it was interesting hearing from some of the drivers earlier on how much they're enjoying the track conditions.
Live from trackside, in sound and vision, Radio Show Limited network of channels. We're on RS1 this weekend. Take us with you if you don't have the bandwidth for the television. Huge slide for the Lamborghini number 66. Okay, Attempto Racing, and that again through that little flick flack of curves in the early part of the lap where the car is barely straight for a pico second. Clement Schmidt in that Attempto Racing Huracan has got company behind him, and that's in the shape of the number 16. Welcome to the jungle. That is Dominic Baumann in the SPS Automotive car who's gained. My goodness, that Mercedes is quick down the back straight, isn't it?
Yeah, they're all being held back by an Audi though at the moment. A 157.362, so we're already deep into the 157s here. And Christopher Haase for Optimum Motorsport in his R8 LMS then, actually managing to go quicker than the Mercedes by almost 3/4 of a second. Dominic Baumann in that camouflage liveried Mercedes was second fastest, make that third fastest now as Jerome Bleekemolen goes through in the Black Falcon Mercedes to do a 157.583. So that's come within 0.2 of a second now of the Haase effort in the Audi.
Yeah, it's interesting that Jerome Bleekemolen going out in that car from the word go, and in the earlier sessions he would only get in it towards the end. Whether that means that Jerome's going to stay in it throughout the 45 minutes or they're going to swap drivers around remains to be seen. But Bleekemolen, then, that's a good time from the Black Falcon Mercedes, but at the moment all of those Mercedes having to play second fiddle to the Optimum Audi. Just looking down the times, first Porsche at the moment is the Gulf Racing Japan car, number 991, which is currently in the hands of Bashar Mardini, all the way down in 18th place. That's the fastest of the Porsches thus far. Porsche, of course, a winner here in Dubai last year, John.
Yeah, Bashar Mardini, one of the regular drivers in the Porsche Carrera Cup Middle East. And they do have rounds here, and they do use the full circuit as far as I remember. Certainly have in the past, whether they did last season. Basha has been improving impressively over the last couple of seasons in that championship. And clearly very confident indeed. That car that he is driving is a close relative to the Cup car. Not exactly the same. Oh, all the way out over the curbs for the 964.
Yeah, Marco Bortolotti could be on for a really fast one here. 38.8 through the first sector, 46.5 with a little bit of traffic coming into turn 10.
But he's clear to the end of the lap now, Johnny. If I look up and see, yeah, through 15 and he's down to 16. He'll get a clear run to the final corner. Meantime, the number 3, Jerome Bleekemolen, Black Falcon in the dark red Mercedes. That's a great colour for that car. Almost, dare I say it, a Maserati-style red in that dark sort of blood colour, and Mirko Bortolotti goes to provisional pole position of 57.2. It's going to be a low 56 for pole position here.
A low 56 or a high 56, depending which way you look at it. Do you think they'll get into the low 56s? I mean, certainly.
I think there's a second to come.
You think there's still a second? Well, I mean, it's truly, I mean, these cars are remarkable the way they're going, and the mix is there as well. I was slightly concerned that one manufacturer may have a bit of an advantage over another, but we've got the mix of Lamborghini, Audi, Mercedes, Renault is right up there as well. The Manthey Porsche moves up to being best of the Porsches to 10th fastest, and that's Mathieu Jaminet who does the time, 158.241, and we already have, what, 12 cars underneath that 2-minute mark.
Rick Breukers is behind the wheel of the 963 GRT Grasser Racing Lamborghini. He's heading into turn 6 at the moment. Huge sideways slides as he kicks it down into second gear. Exits now through 7, heads to the parabolic corner, the carousel with sun right in the eyes. That's the yellow of the two Lamborghinis. We talk sort of gold colour almost. And he's heading down the back straight now. Rick Breukers, who will drive anything. He was at Daytona last week, and as well as Jerome Bleekemolen has to take back provisional pole position from Breukers. For a moment we had GRT Grasser Racing Team first and second, and it's a 57.1 now for Jerome Bleekemolen in Black Falcon Mercedes-Benz number 2. only ever been a German mark that has won this race. And Blake Mullen was on a cracking lap and came upon the 67 Porsche, which has held him up in the early part of the lap, and immediately that lap's gone.
What's great about this, John, as well, is the fact that the Hankook tyres are lasting for more than just a single quali lap. We've seen this in the past where there's only been a couple of laps in the tyre, whereas Blake Mullen is now on his third flying lap, and this one may not be an improvement, so he may well ease back a little bit, push again, and he may then get a fourth flying lap out of it.
That was Phil Quaife, by the way, that inadvertently got in the way. Phil was just out of the pits and trying to get some heat into the Hankook tyres in the Race Pro Motorsport Porsche. Still half an hour to go here, Johnny. This is by no means all over.
No, it's still time to find as well. It's really fun to look at purple times appearing sometimes outside of the top 15. Now, Mirko Bortolotti clearly has had times deleted, though, because the number 964 car dropping way back down the order. So he's got to do it all again, presumably on track limits at turn 12 he's been done on. So turn 12 is the uphill right-hand hairpin.
Exit, I would say that, Johnny.
Yes.
If you get on it really, really hard on the way out, you could get all four wheels.
I think actually you mentioned it at the time, that he was scrambling all over the curbs, and I said this was going to be a quick lap. And I don't think it was an avoidance of a slower car. It was just carrying the speed out of the bend. So Mirko Bortolotti got to try again after that earlier effort was
Through goes Chris Mees for Audi, and it's Audi, Mercedes, Lamborghini, Renault now. 4 different manufacturers in the top 4 because Nicky Pastorelli had eased other GPX Spree number 28 up into what was then third position. He's now pitted that car, but it's Chris Mees in the 777, the MS7 by WRT Audi R8 LMS 157.011. We have now 3 cars within 0.2 of a second, as through goes Mirko Bortolotti into second place at 157.1. So 3 cars within 0.2 of a second. Actually 0.187 of a second for the pedants among you. 777, that's the MS7 by WRT Audi, then the Lamborghini Huracan from GRT, the 964, and the number 3, Jerome Blake Mullen, piloted, because they are throwing these cars around at the moment, Black Falcon, Mercedes-Benz. Then it's the second of the GRT cars. Rick Breukers has pitted, presumably for a new set of Hankooks and perhaps a top-up of racing fuel, now in 4th position. And the top 4 only separated by 2 3/4 tenths. Paul Truswell.
And Robert Renauer in last year's winning, I won't say it's the winning car because I think it's a new car, a new chassis, but the winning team, Herbert Motorsport, that won this race last year, Robert Renauer has only just exited the pits. He spent the first 15 minutes of this 45-minute session either with a problem, don't know, but only just now has he come out onto the track to join in the fun, and that might not be a bad move, because if the tyres do only last, say, 5 or 6 laps, then he can basically go for it now through to the end of the session and not have to worry about coming in at some point for a new set of tyres. Interesting strategy again played by the Herbert team.
Cars are so on the ragged edge here. I've never seen them being driven like this before. Not sure what it is this year, but clearly everyone's had their Weetabix this morning. They are going at it.
I think they've been eating Weetabix all day, John, the way they're...
Right.
I mean, I was saying earlier today, you know, I mean, the car's going faster than they've ever gone before. I mean, it really is going to be, and the race itself is going to be something to watch.
Another lap for Chris Mees, just cooled the Hankooks for a moment, and now he's into that tricky first sector, and Johnny, he's got traffic ahead of him. It's the 62 Porsche that pulls out of the way.
Yeah, that's Matt Campbell, fresh out from the pits. It's interesting that the 5 cars that have set out this session so far, 2 of them have now decided, right, we've had enough in the pit lane. Things have possibly calmed down a little bit from the frenetic start of this 45-minute session. It's now safe to join. So the Fach Autotech car of Matt Campbell, really excited to see how the Aussie gets on this weekend, not only in qualifying but the race as well. Really good Mobil 1 Super Cup for this year. And the 62 car then piloted by Australian Matt Campbell with Robert Renauer just ahead of him on the road. We're still waiting for 3 other cars, though, to join the session. The other FAC Autotech machine, number 61, the RS Car Motorsport Porsche, and the MRS GT Racing Porsche. That's also now about to join the session with Alex Welch at the wheel.
Perhaps surprisingly, 3 A6 Pros at the top, Pro cars at the top, followed by 3 A6 AMs. Why is that surprising? I'll tell you in a moment after we've heard from Nick Damon down in the pits.
And just as you were saying, guys, what has happened is there's been a massive flurry in the first 12 minutes, and now Seb will be able to show you. We've got a great number of cars who are now playing sit and wait. They've often left their fastest driver on, they've put on new tyres, they've sat on the apron, sometimes with the low jacks under the car. A good example is the 5 Ram car that's just pulled away with 16 written on the side, so Tom Onso Cole won't be happy so far, but they've got put on a new set of tyres and they're waiting for a gap now. It looks like the key point is find some track space. Some cars are waiting long. The first flush is on. My guess is we're going to get another flurry probably in 10 minutes time.
Thanks, Nick. Now, I was saying earlier about the slight surprise from my point of view that it's A6 Pro cars. Well, of course, the Hindhoff you're seeing, of course it's A6 Pro cars. They've got the Pro drivers. Well, actually, A6 AM cars have got Pro drivers as well. And in fact, A6 Pro drivers have got AM drivers as well. Fewer Pro drivers, in fact, only 1 allowed in the A6 AM category. But the advantage that the A6 AM cars have got is that they are lighter. Their minimum weight, actually, they're set at the standard minimum weight for balance of performance, and the Pro cars get 30 kilos more. So, yes, they are lighter, but they're sitting at the standard BOP weight. And I thought that we might have seen 1 or 2 of the Pro drivers in the AM cars just making a bit of hay there and trying to embarrass the Pro category cars. It's not happened as yet. As yet. Yes, thank you, Paul. Still time for that as Chris Meese continues to circulate. He's at the end of the long back straight, sun in the eyes as he comes through turn 10 and heads towards the King at 11. Already through there, my goodness, they cover the crowd very, very quickly indeed. Now heading up into, in fact, he's much further round than I thought he was. He's already into the ball at 14, isn't he? And heading back towards us. Low sun here, Johnny, a real problem at 3 or 4 parts of the circuit as Meese peels into pit lane.
Yeah, so again, it's a more difficult session, you could argue, than the previous one, because the sun is falling now towards the horizon. You've made the point already that once the sun really does start to dip, sunset itself is actually very quick, and we plunge into darkness at 5:48, I think, local time here.
At least with the sun, the windscreens should be fairly clear at the moment.
Yes.
What is worse is when you have a dirty windscreen and then you have the sun on it, because then all of a sudden, instead of being a windscreen, it looks a bit more translucent and harder to see through. But as I say, with the qualifying, at least it's a relatively clean windscreen that you're looking through.
We will have some coverage of the night practice tonight when we'll go through a little more of the information. This is a bit fast and furious at the moment, but Corey Marvin asking any rules and regulation changes for 2018. Yes, quite a few. The only one that you need to worry yourself about at the moment, Corey, is that the bracket times, the minimum lap times, have been done away with for A6 AM. So drive it as fast as you can. The balance of performance between A6 Pro and AM being achieved with different weights of the car, which I've mentioned, but more importantly, by different makeup of the experience of the team. You aren't allowed as many Pro drivers in an AM car, which kind of makes sense, but you've still got to have AM drivers in the Pro car, and also, Paul, the amount of time that your respective drivers are allowed to do in the race.
The driving time regulations, exactly. I think, as I say, there's too much going on at the track to discuss it in detail. What I would recommend that Corey does is to have a look at the 24H series website. I know you maybe want to shy away from the tab that says regulations because it's all going to be too complicated, but Creventic has put together a great little summary. It's only about 6 or 7 pages of what are the great summary of 6 or 7 pages.
That's longer than the Can-Am whole regs spook were.
Yeah,
that was one page.
But the point being that the key changes for this year are nicely summarised in that single document, and you don't necessarily have to wade through lots and lots of pages of regulation. I think the whole regulations run for about 150 pages for Creventic now.
Which obviously you read front to back to front, up and down, and memorised on the plane on the way over.
Tried to, but I won't say that I didn't miss something.
That's why I like printed regulations. Can't be doing with things that you've got to read on a
scroll up and down.
Yes, I want to go through pages.
Yes.
Out on the circuit, back out again. Jerome Blakemolen with a new set of Hankooks. He's been in and out of the fuel station, and that beautiful dark red Block Falcon Mercedes-Benz GT3 car running in A6. Third position at the moment, back out on the track.
I don't think we mentioned Mirko Bertolotti putting his Lamborghini back where it should be. Did we say that?
Yes,
we did.
Okay,
yeah.
Sorry, I was...
I got quite excited by that, actually.
Yes, it was, as I say, it was being put back to where it should have been before it had that time disallowed earlier on.
Yes, good point. We have still got 22 minutes in this one and only qualifying session for the Hankook 24-hour GT Series, part of the 24 Hours of Dubai for 2018. It's Johnny Palmer, Paul Truswell and me, John Hindhaugh, in the booth overlooking the track, which is now pretty much all in shade in terms of the track surface. Down in the pit lane, Nick Damon, and we'll get back to him in a moment.
Yes.
Herbert Motorsport 911, Robert Renard, not been out that long. His third lap netted him a 1:57.339, good enough for 6th position, third in A6 AM.
And fastest Porsche as well, which is always something to kind of tuck up your sleeve. Just checking back to Bortolotti's time, that's actually now a quicker time than he had disallowed as well. So he can be satisfied with that, and kicking himself for perhaps using more of the track than he needed to, or he should have done earlier on. But the time that he's working with now is quicker than the time that was disallowed.
And at the moment, of course, we haven't qualifying record time sitting at the top, a 1:57.011. These will be the fastest GT3 cars, A6 cars that we've seen on a single lap around this circuit, and I still think there's a bit more to come. I just wonder if somebody might want to try and slide out. I'm sure there's one or two drivers whose teams will be watching the tracker at the moment, Johnny, and trying to find, right, let's see if we can get some of these SP2 cars into the pit lane, and when they do their pit stops, let's get out there and find a space.
I think the answer is to leave it until the end of the session, Johnny. I mean, it's people are going to give up towards the end of the session, particularly further down the field you get, so that's going to be the time I would suggest.
Yeah, it was still one or two cars showing green time. Stuart Hall's just done a 1:57.625. Green time, by the way, means a personal best for that car. We're not seeing, I don't think, any driver changes, although that's not against anything in the regulations. So we may well see driver 2, for instance, get on board. But there's no need to change drivers, and perhaps most teams will just see that as a waste of time, and also why not just stick your fastest driver in and get a good time as early on in the session as possible. But it's fascinating to see one or two teams just leaving a little bit later, and happy to see the first 15 minutes drift by before they get involved.
Just looking down, slightly surprised that Jelmer Berman is outside the top 10. The Black Falcon car number 2. This is the green Black Falcon car, more Black Falcon traditional colour, if you will. That car, I say, is always very quick, but is a car that we would expect to see up near the front, and I would suggest that anything that Jerome Blakemolen can do in the number 3 car, then so should in the Jelmer Berman be able to do in the number 2.
Bernd Schneider for HTP Motorsport, only down in 18th position at the moment, and the number 9, the BWT Muka Motorsport machine, in its orange and white. This would be your car, isn't it,
Tangerine, that really.
Tangerine, isn't it?
Tangerine and white. I'd sort of adopted that as a favourite car.
And behind the wheel there, Marcus Winkelhock who is a decent left midfielder as well, which I'm sure you could do with. We certainly could.
We could just do with 11 men, frankly.
Well, sure could. Well, we had 13 out at the last game. We had a full team. He's warming up quite vigorously. The Hankook tyres, having just come out of the pits, coming down to the final 16th and final corner. Eases right off. Has he come in the pits? No. He has come in the pits. No, he's just making sure he gets a good run onto the final corner to start a flying lap and leave as much room as he could in front of himself without compromising his exit too much. Goes underneath us now. The distinctive signature headlights on the Audi R8. Oh, squirming into turn one as the back end tries to overtake the front. He gets on the power very, very early indeed. And the Hankook scrambling for grip through the kink at turn two, already through three and heading towards this very technical section. 4, 5, 6 and 7 come as quick as you can see them. Has to try and keep the car on the circuit through the exit of 6. Hasn't been easy to do that, as through goes the 964 of Mirko Bortolotti and takes the provisional pole position of 56.7, and there's still more to come. I promise you. Yeah, I promise you. Bortolotti now has almost 3/10 of a second lead. That's a huge lead in the context of what we've been watching.
Just hope he kept it neat and tidy on that lap, because we have had laps deleted. Car 2 is going to have a time disallowed again because of running out wide from turn 12. So we've never had a non-German car win this race. Have we ever had a non-German car in pole position? That's the next question, because the Lamborghini Huracan, definitely not German, although it's part of the...
All the running gear is.
Yes.
If you look at the gearbox, it's got 4 rings on it.
I know.
It actually has.
but that's Italian styling and then some, isn't it, on the Raging Bull?
We had the Corvette, the V8 Corvette, the V8 Racing Team Corvette.
We did, yes.
I thought I had Nick Damon credit for that, but I would have gone to that.
Yeah.
And by the way, that car, that Corvette, I was just looking at that earlier on.
Yes, it's taken a while for that car to actually appear in that garage, and it wouldn't be a Dubai 24 hours if we didn't peer into the V8 Racing garage.
Duncan Heisman has run that car into 19th position with a 58.5. And I'm going to say now, I reckon that's faster than that car when it was on pole position, and it's down in 19th place at the moment, Paul.
No, it is. I mean, it's certainly quicker than it did, when was it, 2013, I think.
And by the way, Paul, you said 20 cars under 2 minutes. You're wrong, because it's already 21. And in fact, we've got 21 cars under 1:59. And then a 2-minute lap from Stein Shorthurst in the Attempto Racing Huracan. So there's time yet for that to be added, that list to be added to. Bertolotti then looks like he's going for another lap into turn 4 and 5. Rides all the curb on the left-hand side, then tries to get the Lamborghini slowed down as he pitches it into turn 6, get it into the apex. Mirko, yes, nicely done as he exits 7. Uses the red and white curbs with the left hand. Hankooks now set the car up for this long left-hander. He stays low. The back end is moving around though. Oh, these drivers are loving this at the moment. They are feeling the cars moving around. Anyone who likes a car completely nailed to the tarmac at the moment is not going to be happy. Anyone who doesn't mind a bit of drifting is loving it into the braking area at the end of the back straight. He might just have lifted off a tiny little bit. Let's see if there's anything behind him. Is he trying to make a little gap for the next lap? What's his split times like? Not bad, 38.7. It's not his best, but that's faster than Robert Renard has just done. That was his 39 was the fastest for him. Renard, by the way, up to 6th position in that Herbert Motorsport number 911, the car that won this race here last year.
And that was that Renard time, just 2 flying laps.
Yeah.
He went out, he did a 1:57.3, and then followed it up with a 1:57.4, and then he called it a day, came into the pits.
Johnny's on a very odd mission at the moment.
No, just Mirko Bortolotti from Trento in Italy, that's northern Italy, not far from Milan. But I was just wondering how far it was to get from his place to Monza, because it's
well, if you had to walk it, it's 41 hours.
Okay,
apparently.
Well, that's useful to know. I'll change that setting.
Call it what, 200 kilometres?
221 kilometres.
Okay.
on the fastest roofs. He's in the pit lane.
Yeah, so just seen out of the pits has gone Jeroen Blekemolen, so it's not over yet, John, and as you say, I'm sure there is more to come in these, just over 10 minutes remaining.
Thanks to Josh Barrett, along with Chevy, Ferrari and Lamborghini have been on pole at Dubai. So 3 non-German manufacturers that have been on pole, none have converted that into a camel ride and the top step of the podium.
And again, I still think it's important to have strength in numbers at this place.
Agreed.
And there are only 3 Lamborghini GT3 cars here this year, 3 Super Trofeo machines that are in SPX, but it's likely to be an A6 car, whether that be a Pro or an AM, that takes overall victory in the GT Series element of this race.
Joe Bradley is down in the pit lane and has been watching Bernd Schneider in an uncustomary, unfamiliar 15th position. He's just gone back to the fuel area, Joe. What's Bernd, what's the legendary Schneider been asking for from the team? Hello, Joe.
Sorry there, John, I can't hear you. Yeah, the 25 came in, that's the distinct Mercedes of the HTP Sport team, car 25, came in, he's took wing off. He was in a very, very swiftly, and it's a very easy adjustment on the back of that Mercedes, but he's taken wing off. He's chasing straight line speed on that long back straight, and also it's worth the very sleek aerodynamics on the front straight as well, the pit straight.
We've had a Le Mans overall winner out qualifying as well in the A6 Pro category for D-Station Racing. Sechiara won with Audi Team Go.
Yes, in 2005.
He's in 25th position at the moment.
Only the second Japanese driver to win the 24 Hours of Le Mans. But, yeah, I was quite surprised when I saw his name. And this is, again, something of the reputation of this race is how many quality drivers, top flight drivers, do turn out to take part in it. Christopher Mies is back out on the circuit. Mirko Bertolotti, having been into the pits, has now gone out to get a bit more fuel and will be out again shortly. So stand close to the fence, John, last 10 minutes.
Yes. It took some of the Porsche 991 Cup cars a while to get out there, Phil Quaife among them, but now the Race Pro Motorsport machine under his direction is in 30th position and top of the pile as far as 991 AM is concerned, with a very creditable Cup car time of 2:01.690, just ahead of the FAC Autotech number 61. And then the Race Union number 187 on a 2:02. So that's that category. SPX at the moment has the Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo of Leiper Motorsport. Ollie Webb has done the time there. The number 10 car is 24th overall and leads SPX with the 2 minutes exactly. The Lamera Cup car of Christophe Bouchou, another name to conjure with, 2:05.231, leads the SP2 category. And there should be... No, that's it, isn't it? No, there's one more. GT4. Phoenix Racing. Almost time for Phoenix night, really, isn't it, as the sun goes down. Audi R8 LMS GT with Phil Ellis behind the wheel. 49th position. And best of the GT4 cars, just ahead of the Beza Group Racing, Sebastian Ash, Mercedes-Benz. And then the Team Race Scout by Winwood, Roberto Fontana, out qualifying the 84 car. They're separated by all of 2/10, the top 3 in the GT4 category. In fact, you can add on to that the second of the Phoenix Racing cars with Marty Lee coming into the pits there, and he's on a 2:09.5, so there's 3/10 between the top 5 or 6 of the GT4 class runners. That is going to be a heck of a battle all the way through. And 9 minutes to go, Johnny.
Theoretical lap time column on our timing screens, always a fascinating one to look at on occasion, and the Mirko Bortolotti Lamborghini capable of a 1:56.703 according to the theoretical lap time. He's got blooming close to that, I have to say. His actual time a 1:56.716, but can't seem to break that 56.7 right now. No one can. Although, what's this? Jeroen Blekemolen all of a sudden lighting up the screen. The number 3 Black Falcon Mercedes, third fastest, Well, Jerome's just done the best Sector 2 time of anybody. It's a PB through Sector 1 as well, and the final sector takes cars just over half a minute, so we don't have to wait too long for the number 3 car to arrive on the main start and finish line. Jeroen Bleekemolen looking like he's got a clear track ahead of him, and Dewar back across the line any moment now. Will it be better? Yes, it is a better time. It takes him to the provisional front row. A 1:56.751 then for the Dutchman, and that is only 35 thousandths of a second slower than Mirko Bortolotti in the Lamborghini Huracan.
Temperature just dropping a little bit as the sun goes down. It's glinting off the tallest building in the world, lit up like as if it was a huge knitting needle pointing into the sky. Fabulous time of the evening, and still a very clear night here. No dust or sand in the air to worry about getting between your Hankook tyre rubber and the asphalt surface of the Dubai Autodrome. Bleekemolen then in that dark red car with the red LED strip underneath the traditional oval Mercedes-Benz grille. Even the Mercedes three-pointed star is colour keyed on that car, such is the attention to detail. Down to turn 1 then for Bleekemolen. Is he on another quick lap? How much? He's got a 5.035 a second. Do you know what? Jeroen will know exactly where that time is to be found, Paul.
Yes, I think what he did on his previous stint was to do a slight cooling off lap on his second lap, and then try and make his third lap the quick one. Christopher Mies is the man I've got my eyes on. He's just gone out and done, he did an out lap, then a kind of warm, a setting lap, and now I think we might see Christopher Mies going quickly. But meanwhile for Black Falcon, John, that Mercedes, the number 2, has improved like I suggested it ought to a little while ago.
Jelmer Berman was obviously tuned in to us here at 1:56.927. 3 cars now under 1:57. I'm going to say now, I think I was a little bit too hopeful. I don't think we're going to get a low 56, but we might get down to a mid 56. Back into the pits for Jeroen Bleekemolen, straight in. He had a bit of a slide early on, Jeremy. See, that tells you how my brain's calibrated still. Sorry, Johnny.
Yeah, the 2 Mercedes, 3 and 5, are going to be very tricky to tell apart. That was Tom Onslow Cole doing the early part of the lap in the 5.
Right.
But the 3's just come in the pit lane. So that was Jeroen Bleekemolen that we last spotted.
That's what you did.
I was doing 5, meaning that was Tom Onslow Cole. That wasn't Jeroen Bleekemolen. But the 2 cars are very similarly
have they got a red strip on the bottom as well? An illuminated strip?
It's a bit more black on the Black Falcon car, as you might well expect.
The Ram one as well, if you look closely at it, is kind of a metallic red, but from up here you can't kind of see the...
No, not going to see that in the dark either, are you?
No, quite.
It'll look good during sunrise and sunset, though.
But it's a good-looking car, the Ram racing car, Tom Onslow Cole. One of very few cars planning to do the race with just 3 drivers. And that might turn out to... it can work, it can keep the drivers focused, but if any of them does feel a little bit off during the race, then there's no insurance policy at all.
Yeah, Tom and his teammate Ewan Hankey almost paying the penalty for being gold-graded drivers, or at least they are on the 2018 FIA gradings, so that would make them both pros in the Creventic grading of drivers, and Raymond Vos, the Dutch businessman, is a bronze, so 2 pros and an AM driver, a gentleman driver in that combination.
Let's go to Nick Damon, provisional pole for SPX. And Nick has got Ollie Webb with him. Nick?
Out there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty mental. It's, every time you come back to Dubai, you remember how crazy this track is with this many classes, and having done 3 years in the A6 class and 3 years in this now, it's a nice mix. It's hard because we're quicker in a straight line but less aero, but so far with pole, and I think there's only a couple of minutes left and we've done it by a second and a half. It'd be nice to get a 59, but a 2-minute flat we're really happy with.
And you kind of have this kind of SPX class of your own with these Lambos, don't you, speed-wise?
Yeah, I mean, speed-wise, it's us and GDL, so there's 3 or 4 Lambos, but speed-wise in a straight line, we're really strong. A lot less aero than the A6 cars, so it's trying to find which, like, if Bernd, for instance, is in a Merc and he's on his qualifying lap, or is he on his out lap, and then you can get away with overtaking him, you want to make sure that you don't damage anyone's run, but also get the job done. So fingers crossed we're pole.
And how far up the overall do you think you can get tomorrow?
Good question. I mean, last year I think we were top 15 and first and second in class, but it's hard. It totally depends on other people's misfortune, which you never wish upon. So top 20 overall and first in class for SPX is always very respectable. So that's what we'll aim for.
Best of luck. Well done. Thanks, Ollie.
Thank you.
Provisional pole for that car at the moment in 24th position, the Lightfoot Motorsport Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo in SPX. He's to the time of 2 minutes .065. The next best SPX car is the GDL Racing Team Asia machine at 2:01.5. So that was a bit of a special lap from Ollie Webb there. Very, very good driver.
Green Black Falcon car, currently third fastest and still being driven by Jelmer Berman. We're down to the final 2 and a bit minutes now.
Top three have all gone out again.
Yes, they have.
They're just completing their first lap, and Berman is throwing around that green number 2. He's into turn 6 and coming through 7. Sparks flying from the underside. It's actually starting to get a little bit dark now. This is more than twilight. This could be the time. This could be the time. Oh,
not now.
The number 60 has ground to a halt right on the entrance to the pit lane. Can he get it restarted? Yes, he can.
That's a Lamera Cup car.
He's in the pit lane entrance. It's Christophe Bouchou, pole sitter, provisional pole sitter. Yellow flag at T15. Pole sitter in SP2, that Lamera Cup car with the Ford straight 5 engine. Now, he's off the track now. There's no need. Apart from everybody coming into the pit lane. He's actually in the pit lane. He's got the door open.
He can almost roll down the hill from there because there is a bit of an incline at that point. I think he's got it beyond the incline.
I think he's got it on the starter motor just to get it rolling. That's a great piece of heads-up driving by Christophe Bouchou.
But there is yellow flags being displayed at that part of the circuit, and that will make it very difficult indeed for anybody justifying an improved lap time, which Christopher Meese has just done, John.
And gone to the top. 56.6. Come on, another couple of tenths. Red flag.
At 15.
Red flag. Session will not be resumed. There was 43 seconds to go, and Bouchou's car has brought a premature end to the session. Oh, now will the Meese team will Christopher's time be allowed to start?
I think it was very well timed, John. It wasn't mistimed at all. It was very well timed, and say, provided that it's all allowed, then that will stand as a pole position time, but set. Just have to check precisely to see whether
did he improve in sector 3? That's your question, because if he didn't improve in sector 3, it's a legal
the fastest time of everybody. It was a purple time through sector 3 to do the 156.6. That was the thing that struck me.
And now, having walked away from the car, he walks back, and Christophe Bouchou, it fires, and the straight 5 fires up immediately. That little twin turbo 2.5 litre Ford engine has pushed the SP2 pole sitter, and he is the SP2 pole sitter ahead of the KTM Crossbow and the Speed Lover Porsche. That's Peter Cox and Carlos Rivas, respectively. Well, the 777 team are celebrating. Nick Damon is down there, and this is going to be one for the stewards, Nick, but we'll presume that this time's going to stand. Nick? 777 coming through to the end of the lap. 156.615, not quite a time. Sorry, Nick, not hearing you at the moment. If you're hearing me, getting nothing from you at all, Nick, on either of our channels. So we'll go back to Nick in just a moment.
But Mohammed bin Saud Al Saud's love of the number 7 certainly shows a lot of luck with it at the moment. Yes, we can hear you now, Nick.
Nick, go ahead with our provisional pole sitter, Chris Meese.
Yeah, that was and with our Dries Van Toren's teammates. Dries, do you think that time's going to stand?
Well, I hope so. Of course,
the car was standing still, but he was moving as well. I don't know exactly what he was trying to do or was planning to do, but I don't really see it as a yellow flag. He was trying to get there, and it was not a permanent yellow flag. I mean, it was not a standing yellow flag. It was not yellow flag for the whole time. On the screen, it was going off and on and on, going off and on. But of course, really happy. It was a last lap action, but yeah, of course, really happy. The car was already running well the whole weekend already. So yeah, Audi and WT. Hopefully, if it stays like this, Audi and WT did a great job again.
I say, I noticed that Chris seemed pretty chuffed about it.
Yeah, well, we have to wait and see how he is, but of course he will be happy. Of course, it's still a long race, it's 24 hours, so anything can happen, but for the moment, we're all really happy.
Brilliant, thanks, Dries.
Dries Venter with Nick Damon in the pole sitting. Chris Meese, MS7 by WRT, with a new qualifying lap record, 156.615, the fastest GT lap we've ever seen around the full Grand Prix configuration of the Dubai Autodrome, just on a tenth of a second ahead of Mirko Bortolotti. What a fight that was between the two similar engined cars, mid-engine V10, Grasser Racing Team, and Mirko Bortolotti put up a good fight. Nothing at all, 0.035 of a second behind. I mean, literally the blink of an eye. The top four within 0.2 of a second. Jerome Blakenmolen, Jelmer Berman, hunting as a pack for Black Falcon. Tend to be a solitary hunting bird normally, but they were in wing formation there. So it was Audi, Lamborghini, Mercedes at the top of the standings, and the top five all A6 Pro cars. Then a slew of A6 AM, led by the Renault RS01. Nicky Pastorelli got hooked up well in the middle part of that qualifying session for GP Extreme, a 157.2. Rick Breukers for the GRT Grasser Racing Lamborghini, the second car, next up in seventh, and the top 10 made up by Porsche, number 911, Hoffer Racing, Christian Frankenhout in the number 9, and Christopher Haase for Optimum Motorsport in 10th position. As we look further down, it's all A6 Pro and AM cars, and look at that, the top 15 within a second. And if we go down to the next page as well, Paul's prediction that we'd have 20 cars within 2 minutes. We had 23 cars down to the number 66 in 23rd position, under the 2-minute barrier. Leipert Motorsport were the best of the SPX category. We heard from Ollie Webb with Nick a little bit earlier on. And let's run through quickly the rest of the standings and pick up the other pole sitters in class. Fat Auto Tech, Philip Fromweiler in the 991 AM category. In 991 Pro, where did that car go? I'll pick that up for you later. SP2 was the Lamera Cup car of Christophe Bouchou in 41st position. 991 Pro, I found it was Klaus Bachler in the Race Pro Motorsport car, but that was, I think, Phil Quaiffe's time that did that. Besser Group Racing make up the top 50, and then beyond them, everybody getting out. There's another 10 that put times in, and they look rather like this. In 51st position, Norberto Fontana for Team Race Scout by Winwood. So the GT4 pole sitter was Philip Ellis in 49th position. Behind them were Besser Group Racing and Team Race Scout by Winwood. 60 cars setting a lap, but the man who set the fastest one, and a new fastest lap ever for GT3 in A6 Pro around the Dubai Autodrome, that's Christopher Meese for MS7 by WRT, 156.615, and he's with Nick Damon.
Chris, fantastic lap time. Where has this speed for GT3 come this year?
Well, you always find a couple of tenths in the winter. The boys kept working hard during the winter, and I must just say that the car was phenomenal today. We worked a lot on the setup. We did the test on Monday. We did the test on Wednesday. We consistently improved the car every session we went out, and the car was just mega to drive. I think I could not have gone 1/10 quicker. It was really like on the edge, and thanks to the boys, the car was amazing to drive.
Was that all tactic, saving it to the end, or was it just the way it worked out?
No, honestly, we wanted to do in the first run, but obviously I got traffic, which was a bit unfortunate for us. The second shot as well. So I just had one more shot. And that was it. I knew it. It was the lap. It was the last lap, and I knew I had to do it.
Yellow flag sort of may or may not have been around in that lap. How do you see that?
Well, I haven't seen any yellow flag, so for me it's quite clear that we deserve the pole, and I think the time showed this. And nevertheless, I don't know, I haven't seen a yellow flag. I think there was no yellow flag because when you come around the second last corner, you straight watch to the marshal, and he was just standing there. So I obviously saw the car then standing on the right when I passed it, but before there was definitely no yellow flag, and there was also no green flag after. So for me, that's obvious that there's no yellow flag out.
Looking forward to the race. You've got a quick car over a lap. Do you have a quick car over an hour?
I think the Audi has proven that it's quick. You know, the team has won many races, many long races. The Audi has won 24 Spa, 24 Nürburgring last year, and we have proven it's reliable. That's all. That's the first thing you need in a 24 race, and it has been quick. You know, and it's also between us teammates. Dries, Michael, and Mohammed. We are more or less on the same pace. You know, Mohammed is consistently improving every time he goes out, and that's a key fact.
Thank you very much, Chris, and let's hope you keep the time, but of course we do now know that the lap time is under investigation, so more drama still to happen here. Will it end up being the pole man just down there, Mirko Bertolotti? Who knows? That's in the lap of the Stewart and Martin van Pavert.
Thank you, Nick Dearman, down there at the 777 MS7 by WRT. The good news is that 777 by WRT car's got an onboard camera, so Chris Meese has told everybody there what he saw as a driver. You do exactly what he said. You look from position to position. That will be able to be confirmed, because no matter what it says on the screen, if the flag wasn't out, you can't blame the driver for going at it. We'll be back for night practice. Check the 24H series.com website for times in your local area, or go to radiolemans.com and look down to the bottom for the RS1, Channel RS1 schedule. Paul, a quick final thought from you before we go to the highlights?
Interesting thought from Christopher Meese that the Audi was very quick. Marcus Winkelhock was the second quickest Audi. He did improve his time towards the end of the session. Not quite sure we mentioned it. He got down to a 57.253, did Marcus. So, he's fifth fastest, but it's those two Black Falcon Mercedes, whether they're hunting as a pair or as individuals, I don't know, but they never, ever overlook a Black Falcon Mercedes at the Dubai 24 Hours.
I can only agree. I mean, the Lamborghini... we've now almost run this race for 13 occasions. It will be 13 by the end of this coming weekend. It would be a phenomenal record for German cars to keep up their record. Not putting it past them at all, but the Lamborghini there looking clearly like it's got the single lap pace. It's just a question of whether the Huracan can sustain that across 24 hours. The Audi looks quick. The Mercedes hunting in a significant pack. I agree with Paul there. The Renault as well could have a say. Porsche seem like they're up against it. Herbert Motorsport were late to join the session. Robert Renauer finishes 8th fastest in the end, but it's going to be tough to look beyond the German machinery at this stage.
Johnny Palmer and Paul Trustwell with me in the studio. Thanks to Nick Dearman and Joe Bradley down in the pit lane. That's not the end of the action, because we'll be back at 7:40 local time for the night practice. Enjoy whatever time you have away from us until then, and we'll be back with it all live here on RS1, part of the channels of the RSL network, and we'll relieve you with some reminders of that session for our qualifying for the first round of the Hankook 24-hour GT Series of 2018. Bye-bye. Well, hello everybody, and welcome along to night practice. We are live from trackside. Well, the cars are lining up at the exit of the pit lane for night practice. There's 90 minutes of this. This is non-competitive as such. But what we will have is all the drivers who are going to drive in the dark need to go out and do laps here. Paul Trustwell and Johnny Palmer are joining me. I take it it's, what, out, flying lap and back in?
It's 2 laps, and that need not be a flying lap. It's just 2 laps, an out lap and an in lap will suffice. If all of your drivers do that in the next 90 minutes, then you have nothing to worry about. If not all of your drivers do that in the next 90 minutes, then you have to go along with a letter to the clerk of the course or the race director, and he will then consider the situation and take a view. But normally, the view is a fairly pragmatic one, either that single driver who hasn't done the laps is still allowed to race but not during the night, or if he has proved himself in other nighttime races, then it shouldn't be a problem for them. However, I think the purpose of this is slightly more than qualifying. The session is called night practice, and I think for me the main purpose is just to make sure that your drivers are familiar with the circuit, even if they've driven in, even like Kurt Oyser has driven as many 24-hour races as he has. Getting the lights exactly configured correctly, getting used to how many cars are out there, getting used to where the blind spots are, getting used to the dazzle of the cars behind. I mean, the lighting technology these days has come on in
massively,
to such an extent. And of course, the other thing to bear in mind is that the track conditions might change a little bit.
Early on
already, though, on this out lap coming out of the pit lane, John.
Yeah, it's Ricky Coomber. He's on the exit of turn 1, I think, there, Johnny, isn't he? Just around. No, that's.
It's not 1. It's a bit further round.
Yeah,
it might be.
I think that's 6 and
section,
7.
isn't it? Yeah,
it's 6 into 7, is it?
Yes.
Yeah, he's managed to get it pointing in the right direction. And we can happily report that Ricky is fine. Not sure whether he did it on his own or whether he got a little bit of help. But the Seat spun around, and I wonder if it was just a little bit of cold tyres. And that 99 car pointing in the wrong direction very quickly. It's a Honda Civic, of course, not a Seat. Even as I said that, I knew that to be the wrong thing to have said. I think he just clipped the curb and went around there, Johnny.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. We thought for a moment we might be able to get another chance to describe that to you, but that may be just around the corner. But I think, yeah, it looked like 6 and 7, although it's weird, isn't it? Some of these live streams, some of the camera angles look very, very different.
Very different in the dark
compared to the evening time.
Yes, absolutely, very different in the dark. Let's bring you the big breaking news of the evening, and that is that the pole-sitting Audi of Chris Meese, who put in that outstanding time right at the end of the last session, just before the red flag came out, that time has been disallowed. And that means that the Audi has lost its pole position. It will start from the outside of the second row now, 4th position for that 777 car, which promotes the Grasser Racing Lamborghini to its 2nd pole position, in inverted commas, in less than a week. Because think back to Sunday, and the Grasser team took the best finishing, best qualifying spot for the Daytona pit box competition. So they get the best of the GT runners in the pit box competition. So that's 2 fastest laps. It's just going into the 964. This is just going into the fuel area at the moment, and Mirko Bortolotti not behind the wheel of that car, but Andrew has tracked him down, and so we can say good evening to Andrew Marriott, who has the pole sitter for the 2018 race next to him now. Andrew.
Absolutely, John, and you wouldn't expect different, would you? Mirko, well, it's a terrific battle for the pole position, and now you find you've got it.
Yeah, I got it. Really happy. First qualifying of the year, first pole. Great to start a year like that. It was a mega lap, to be honest. Had no traffic. Really happy. I mean, the car worked out really fine, and could really, get the maximum out of it. Yeah. At the end, I got passed by the Audi, but it was on the yellow, so we kind of expected it that it would, cancel the lap. So I had to back off in that sector because of the yellow flag. Otherwise, I could have gone quicker as well. So at the end of the day, I'm happy with the pole position. Big thanks to the team. They did a mega job. It's good to be back here in Dubai. It's going to be a long race with many cars on the track. So yeah, fingers crossed, and we'll see what we can do tomorrow.
Now, last year in Blancpain, you won a lot of races in a Lamborghini, but a Lambo has never won a 24-hour race.
Yes, that's true. But tomorrow we have a 24-hour race to go, so we will try to change, we try to change the story and to make, a new one. We are here to deliver the maximum, and yeah, we will try to go for the win. But as I said, it's a long race, and it's not just about pace. It's a lot more factors that have to play out for us in order to be able to win this race. So I think we have a strong team, strong lineup. We are well prepared, but you're never prepared enough for Dubai. It's a really tough race.
Absolutely great stuff. Thanks very much, Mirko. He's going to try and change history.
Thanks, Andrew. Down there with the pole sitter, man who set the pole time, and whilst that was happening, a couple of cars facing in the wrong direction at turn number 6, again causing problems. One being the KTM 201, and that is a couple of cars I think that were on their outlap when that happened. And Tom Kiefer was behind the wheel of the CCS Racing KTM Crossbow. The other one was the Peugeot.
It was the
RCZ.
Yes, the Johnson Engineering.
And that was Soren Jonsson behind the wheel of that car, the number 171. Both cars, I believe, are now pointing back in the right direction and continue their outlap. I may proffer that it's quite chilly out there and track temperatures are down, and that drivers are being caught out by that, Johnny.
Yeah, it's certainly likely. Just that hour and a half or so that they had as downtime, if you like, but the track conditions will have changed. It shouldn't be any less grippy in terms of the amount of Hankook rubber that's down on the track surface, but certainly ambient temperature and track temperature does make a difference.
I think the other point is that there is no tyre warming allowed in the Hankook series, neither by electric tyre blankets or by these heated ovens that we see in some other forms of racing. No form of tyre warming is allowed at all. So, as you say, they've been sitting in the garages or out on the pit lane. They go out. Even the surface of the pit apron is a whiter surface, so therefore that will be cooler. I'm not making excuses for the drivers. Not everybody's been spinning, only a couple of them. But I think just the changing of conditions has made a difference.
Bruce Jones with some news on a car that brings variety to the front of the field, the Lambda Performance Ford. Bruce?
It looks great, John, but it doesn't look so good because it's sitting in the garage. Almost everybody else in this 90-car field is out getting some decent nighttime laps. But the good news is, while I was waiting, they've been working on the front brakes, bleeding them. They've got a driver getting on board now, so this sort of one-off that effectively really has raced almost not at all for the past 5 years or so is going to come out and play all over again. It looks great, but again, as I said, it will look far better when the engine is revving up and it's heading out of the pit garage. But for now, the Lambda Performance car is probably about 5 minutes away from going out on the circuit.
Thank you, Bruce. Bruce Jones down there in the pit lane. And just a quick bit of housekeeping for Andy Marriott. Andrew, can you turn your mic off, please? Because we can't hear ourselves think up here for the very loud cars coming by. Marcus Winkelhock out in the BWT Mickey Motorsports Audi RA LMS. And heading onto the far side of the circuit. There's a little more lighting, it seems to me, around the circuit at the moment.
It's apparently 5 degrees is the temperature drop in the last hour and a half since the GT cars were out for their qualifying session, whilst those who were working on the cars were doing whatever they were doing and drivers were off having something to eat. But it was 5 degrees as a temperature drop, and that has made a significant difference. Some of the teams were telling me to what's going to happen in this session.
Problem for Jordan Kroger in that GP Extreme Renault RS01 GT3, currently 6th position in this evening session, this night session. No rear lights on that car, so that will have to come in. Just to remind you, this is not a competitive session as such. The grid for both of the series that are racing here this weekend, both the Hankook 24H series and the Hankook 24 GT series and the Hankook 24-hour TC Endurance series, Touring Car Endurance series, the grids are set, and therefore this is about qualifying drivers and getting some nighttime running done. There hasn't been any other darkness running this week. It got into the gloaming earlier on in the week in the private test, but not full darkness. And it's been full darkness here for over an hour now, Paul.
But you know how these things are. You're right. It's not competitive in the sense that it's going to make any difference to anything. But for sure, everybody's going to be looking at the times that everybody else is doing and comparing themselves to what everybody else is doing, and drawing their own conclusions from that. And as I say, it may not actually count for anything at the end of the day. But I'm sure you know, I mean, we've got a Manthey Porsche currently running second fastest. We were surprised that the Porsches weren't further up in the qualifying session.
Wait till the race.
Well, quite, yes. Both of the Porsches, both Manthey and Herbert, they're not all white Porsches, so they're not boring, but they certainly shouldn't be overlooked.
I'd throw in as well with the Tsunami RT MR car as well. That's an SPX car, but that's a very quick car, and MR means it's Olaf Manthey blessed. MR for Manthey Racing, so that car will have the reliability and the longevity. Ultimately, I don't think it's going to get a great overall finish unless there's carnage ahead of it, but that car will just churn round and round and round, so long as nobody hits it. Let's go down to the pit lane and to Bruce Jones.
Thank you very much, Peter Cox. Peter, just grab you. You're racing for KTM Motorsport Australia. Cars in the pit lane at the moment. What's happening with it?
Well, we have a gear change issue. We also had that in qualifying a little bit, so we have to look into it. So we rather to do that now, because it happened now. Only the problem is if it happens all the time, it's easy, but it only happens once or twice now. So we need to fix this before we start.
And what's the crossbow like around the Dubai circuit?
It's fantastic. It's a bit, how do I say? You know, it's a bit slow on the straight, but the braking and the corner speed is phenomenal. So it's really fun to drive.
Thanks, Peter. For those of you watching on radio, Peter had a big smile on his face. He sort of somewhat.
You can hear that. You can certainly hear that, Bruce. Thank you. Bruce Jones down in the pit lane along with Andrew Marriott for this first part of the session out on the circuit at the moment. Oh, and another spinner at turn 6, and that is the 239 Ginetta, the Red Horse sponsored car, and a little bit of steam coming from the front of that car. Oh, is the right front damage to that as well? The marker lights have gone off on the side of that car. 239, I think another car that had just gone out of the pits relatively recently. And sitting dead stick at the moment, but the headlights are still on. It's not facing oncoming traffic.
Yes, was on or is on an out lap.
Yeah, Michael Klosterman behind the wheel of that Danish driver on the day that Tom Christensen was inaugurated into the Danish Hall of Sporting Fame. Well, he's got a point in the right direction. More importantly, he's got the V6 fired up. And the 239 continues off the circuit for the time being. That was really heads-up driving there, Johnny. Didn't come straight back onto the track, stayed off the circuit so that he wasn't pulling on at a very acute angle and sort of rejoined where it could almost come on like a highway or a motorway slip road.
Yes. It's almost the now familiar Creventic way, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's instilled into every competitor that, particularly in a free practice session, don't do anything stupid. Don't try and rejoin as quickly as you can, because you're going to jeopardise somebody else's run through that part of the circuit and potentially cause an incident as well. Better to wait for a gap in the traffic and make sure that your rejoining is as safe as possible. So Michael Klosterman has been racing with Perfection Racing Europe for a couple of seasons now in their Ginetta G55 GT4 Evo. So that's a 2017 evolution of the G55. For the main part, race numbers, door numbers should be illuminated. I just noticed there for the 212 car, a very dark race number for Adrian Specher and his Stanko and Tanner Motorsport Seat LCR. That car's already had some drama at the stage that was in free practice, when at the end of one of the sessions it needed to return to the pit lane on the end of a tow rope.
Someone who I haven't seen at a racetrack for far too long, well, certainly not with a helmet in his hand and racing, is Michael Verges, and he's down in the pit lane now with Andrew Marriott.
Yeah, John, you must miss him last year. Michael, you put a very good team together here, haven't you?
We've got a great setup. WRT obviously known for their quality race team preparation. MS7 is a team that's set up by Mohammed Al Saud, who's the owner of the car, and everything is going great guns so far. Christopher Mies, unfortunately, got his lap taken away there on that last lap, and which we got pole, but unfortunately dropped back to fourth. These are things that happen. Unfortunately, there was a car that was parked on the pit entrance, and there was a yellow flag zone, so we got lost that lap. But it's a 24-hour race, so starting fourth gives us great hope, and we've got great speed in the team.
And of course, WRT, brilliant at calling the strategy.
Yeah, unfortunately, obviously here at Dubai with 2-hour driving maximum driving stints, and the stint actually with the fuel being about 1 hour and 10, it's difficult to maximize double stints, but I'm sure the guys know what they're doing, and we're looking really forward to it.
Great to see you back in a race suit.
Yeah, I come back once a year by the looks of it, but hopefully this will get me out in the car more often.
Very good. Thanks very much, Michael.
Michael Verges for WRT, MS7 by WRT. And if you are just joining us, that news that broke through the evening meal time, that's that red flag that came out for Christophe Bouchou, wasn't it, who was in the pit lane entrance with a yellow flag at turn 15, the penultimate corner on the circuit. And Chris Mies improving his time through there, putting the fastest sector of anyone through sector 3, and just nicked away pole position from Mirko Bertolotti, who was Bortolotti was out there and improving as well, and in fact lifted in that final sector and was passed by the Audi, the 777 Audi, Paul.
Well, we were denied a last-minute scurry for that pole position, which
grandstand finish,
the Audi team can perhaps feel hard done by that they lost pole position, but they might easily have lost pole position with an improving Bortolotti as well as the session drew to a close, because that red flag, as John says, ended up prematurely stopping the session. But as if to just reinforce reinforce what I was saying a moment ago about the competitiveness of this session. Fastest at the moment are 3 Audis, 1, 2 and 3. Christopher Meese currently out in the 777 car, and he's set the fastest lap time. Second fastest is Christa Jöns out in the number 9 Audi, and that's the BWT Muka Motorsport car. Marcus Winkelhock went out at the beginning of the session, but Christa has put in the second fastest time just a moment ago. Then third fastest is the 33 Car Collection Motorsport Audi with Frank Stippler behind the wheel, and he's just brought that car into the pit. So it's an Audi 1, 2, 3 at the moment in this non-competitive night practice session, John.
Jordan Groger, one of the best-looking cars out there to my eye is the 2 Gulf liveried Renault RS01. You're in number 27, or more to the point, you're not in it. You just handed it over. How's it going?
Yeah, it's going great. Running through our program, qualifying showed how the depth of quality exists in the GT3 field this year. So it's great for us to be here. We're loving it. We think we've got a solid package. We did the series last year. Year on year, we've definitely grown together as a team. And with the new BA Brie regs, considering there's no deficit in lap time, we think we've got a shot at it. It's a long race, but we're optimistic.
Now, I gather that you're not going to stop your program after this race. You're planning to do a lot more with the car this year. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're going to do the full 24-hour series. So a lot of great tracks, races, and we're optimistic for that. Should be good.
Good stuff. We'll see you at the rest. Have a great race, Jordan.
Bruce Jones with Jordan Groger. We've got WRT, we've got BWT, we've got HTP. What else have we got? GRT. I suppose we've got FAT as well. 3-letter acronym.
MRS.
TLAs.
TLAs, 3-letter acronyms.
GDL.
SPS. PRT, Phoenix Racing Team.
CWS.
Yes.
VDS.
Yeah, very good. GDL as well as GRT, of course. Yeah, very good. Lots of 3-letter acronyms.
To break the theme.
All fab.
All fab.
I'm going to start calling them all fab now.
Okay,
always fab.
Yes. Well, they're driving a McLaren, and the only McLaren in the field, so always
Which surprises me slightly, to be honest. I thought we might have seen more Maccas here. Slow-moving RS01 almost pulls into the side of one of the Mercedes as he's going through turn 4. It's a slow-moving RS01, and it is the 27 car that is struggling at the moment, and that's Fred Fatien, who's just come out of the pits in the number 27, 20th position for that A6AM car, and he was going slowly, and I think there's a tyre missing from the back of that car. Thank you, TV. And the whole wheel's gone, perhaps. I can't see anything under the wheel arch. Is there something there? Is that just the disc turning? But he's just come out of the pits, and as he was going very slowly, we almost had a very nasty incident with one of the Mercedes-Benz diving up the left-hand side of him. Well, there is a wheel on there, but it's barely holding on, Johnny, is it? I think the centre lock nut's gone, and there goes the rim at turn 6. And what's the adage? Never a good day when parts of your car are doing different lap times.
Hopefully that's run off towards the barrier.
It's making its bid for freedom, isn't it?
It is, but toppled onto its side, and therefore is in a relatively safe state now. It'll still need to be retrieved, but the last thing we want to see is that wheel and tyre bounce off a barrier and back towards traffic. But hopefully that's toppled onto its side. And Fred Fatien now basically sticking the thumb out, hitching for a ride because...
Code 60.
Code 60.
In order to retrieve that 27 car, we've gone effectively caution.
The reason I was mentioning all the 3-letter teams, WRT, who lost pole position, of course, have won this race.
Yes.
With the Belgian Auto Club cars.
They did 2 years ago.
Yeah, 2016. So code 60 gives us a chance to catch up with some of the drivers who are here. Out goes the flatbed. And the flatbed taking a wide line through corner number 1, but not hanging about. It's through the gap between the marker boards. And just about to get there. We'll go to Andrew in just a moment, just waiting for the call. And once again, the wide open spaces giving opportunity for the rescue vehicles to stay off the circuit, although kicking up a little more dust than we've seen. And Fred Fatien, and this will have been a bit of a shock to him as the Mercedes went the wrong side of him, and he turned left to get off the racetrack, and the Mercedes, Johnny, was already there.
I know, yeah, and I don't know whether it was Mercedes or a Porsche, but anyway, that's...
yeah, that's funny enough. I thought Porsche when I first saw it, and then as I saw it disappearing, I thought Mercedes, and now I've seen it again, I think maybe Porsche.
It's tricky, isn't it, in the lack of light, but that's kind of academic because it was splendid driving by whichever car it was. That was exactly the line that the GT machine needed to take, and then it had to slam on the anchors and jink left over a very dusty part of the track, effectively over the white line. So you're then on the runoff, you're heading towards tyre stacks, which are to drivers left around turn 5. Not a very nice place to be between a very slow car and something solid like a tyre bale. But disaster averted, and Fred Fatien has managed to bring that car to a stop safely as well.
Andrew Marriott is standing by patiently with Frank Stippler in the pit lane.
Yeah, indeed, adjusted that third fastest time. Frank Stippler, you've lived with this Audi R8 before it was a racing car, haven't you? You've done most of the development on it.
Yes, I had a couple of laps in this car, and yeah, I'm still looking forward to drive it. I was meant to be on holiday for this race, but the possibility popped up to have some more race laps for the 2018 season, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it now.
But what I was saying, that you've done a lot of the development on the car over the years.
Yes, we did GT3 as well as GT4 and as well as the street and road car before. So yeah, it was always a nice time, and it seems to be continued this season.
And how is it working with the car collection boys? Great group of enthusiasts.
Yes, they are a great team, gentleman team all over. And this is a new situation for me. And in general, there are some things you need to react on regarding the car balance, which is, let's say, not as aggressive as it is meant to be for professional drivers. Let's say it's more in tendency direction understeer, for example. So yeah, it's slightly compromised here and there, but in general, the main target is that everybody of them is enjoying it, and I'm really looking forward to this race.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Frank.
You're welcome.
Frank Stippler, who of course holds the title, and this is undisputed because there was a race to decide this, of the fastest Audi legend driver ever. Because they were all put in TT Cup cars at the end of last season.
Yes.
At the Hockenheimring. We covered it live on Radio Show Limited's network of channels, and Frank Stippler won that race.
There you go, and presumably never to be held again, so he can just hold that for eternity,
yeah.
Can he?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah, very
Frank
good.
Stippler driving this weekend with Dirk and Dimitri Parhofer, with Remy Terrell, who's taken charge of that car from Frank after, as Andrew correctly says, the 33 was put into third position by Mr. Stippler, and the fifth driver in car 33 is Isak Tutumlu, the Spaniard. So that's a nice little pro-am lineup is what I'm trying to say, with Frank Stippler, very much the pro driver. But it'd be interesting to see how well that 33 Car Collection Motorsport car goes. Car Collection, the German squad, often coming to Creventic meetings with at least 2 Audis, sometimes, in fact, 3 R8s.
Ran Mercedes-Benz in the past as well. I seem to remember that Zandvoort a couple of 3 years ago running a Mercedes-Benz,
in fact,
and winning the race, I think.
At Cota, back end of last year, there was a Car Collection Mercedes, I think, as well.
They have been known for not necessarily sticking with one manufacturer. They'll sometimes split their allegiance. Hello to Shea Adam, down in Florida. See you in a couple of weeks Shea when we head back for the Rolex 24. And happy birthday to Shea today. 19 she is today. That's what she told me to say. Anyway, I got the message. We've got an hour and 2 minutes of this session to go. It won't be too long before we head back to Grain. Actually, yes, it will, because we are now running the medical car and ambulance exercise. So when we had a real Code 60, the organisers taking the opportunity to put the intervention vehicles out. You don't see them very often. Audi SUV tracking the flatbed back with the rotating orange beacon on it is a Q5. It's one of the course cars here. And the 27 bereft of left rear wheel and Hankook tyre. Also out on the circuit, the medical car and an ambulance, just so drivers get used to seeing them in the darkness. I think that's a really smart move, Johnny, that, to be honest. I like this to be done. And they haven't manufactured a Code 60 either, Paul. There is actually one out there.
It's an efficient use of time, isn't it? Otherwise, you're going to kind of get towards the end of the session and then they'll find they haven't had the exercise, and so they then have to throw another Code 60 for a purely artificial reason. So, yeah, this does make things much more effective. Not just for the teams to get used to having service vehicles on the track, but also for the service vehicle drivers themselves.
Very good point.
And the marshals to know their ways around the place, and all of that. An important thing to rehearse when, I won't say it doesn't matter, I mean of course it always matters, but to make sure that without necessarily lives being at risk, these service vehicle drivers can get out there and familiarise themselves with what's going on.
Yeah, and also without perhaps, if there are any lessons to be learned, learn them now and not when it's going to affect someone's race.
Quite so, yeah. So a useful, as I say, use of time, and hopefully no, or at least minimal damage done to that Renault RS01, and it will be able to have the wheel put back on again. You said, I wasn't watching the TV pictures, John, but you said at one point the wheel was on and looked wobbly.
Yes.
Was that just the wheel nut working its way off?
I think so. It had just come out of the pits. It was Fred Fatian's out lap, so maybe a cross thread on that, or the wheel gun not working quite well enough, and hadn't nipped it up.
Not a suspension failure, more importantly.
No, absolutely not. The wheel was on when the car was... He must have... I mean, you feel that pretty early. As soon as you start getting up to speed, you'll feel that moving around. If you've ever had even a slow puncture, you feel it quite quickly, but certainly a wobbly wheel, it's a bit scary. And Fred had slowed down pretty well, to be honest, Johnny, and looked like he was going to be able to creep back to the pit lane.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate about the place that it happened, I suppose, because you, as the rest of the traffic, you're absolutely flying around turn 3 and 4. Miss the apex at 3, clip the curb at 4. You're looking for your clipping point, and then you look up, and there's a car virtually stopped on the racing line.
Let's go back down to the pit lane. I think we've got Andrew Marriott again, have we?
Yeah, I'm with Jordan Grogor here. Might be able to tell us what happened to that wheel falling off. Do we know what happened to Fred Fatian there?
We're waiting for the car to come back. It's probably just a faulty wheel nut or installation on the left rear corner. We'll figure it out. Thank God it happens now and not tomorrow.
Well, the cars are looking pretty competitive, but it's going to be a huge struggle and big game of strategy tomorrow.
Yeah, I think if you look at the grid, it's 20 cars within a second, a few tenths or 10 places on the grid. We're in the mix, that's for sure. We just got to concentrate, as you say, on strategy, race pace, and 24 hours, let's last.
Now, although you're South African, you're on home territory really here these days, aren't you? Have you actually got a home here?
Yeah, I've been living here 15 years, very much home. So it's great to have a race of this stature at home, and hopefully we'll bring something back for all our family and friends.
What brought you here in the first? It was a big move, I guess.
Yeah, wow, a long time ago. Just opportunity. Why not, right? You're young, new opportunity, exciting place to come live and build something.
Well, best of luck to you, mate. Well done.
Should be good. Cheers.
Smart boy coming out here 15 years ago. We still have intervention vehicles out on the circuit as the medical car and the ambulance I can see in the pit have simulated dropping someone off at a pit, and are now clearing the pit lane. Again, important for everyone to see that happen as well, and not just the drivers of the cars involved, but also pit crew. Very different to have quite a quiet road-going ambulance and street car rolling down the pit lane. Got to keep your wits about you here, particularly when you stack 2 and 3 wide. There's no pit lane that's wide enough for the amount of cars that we've got here. In fact, we had a couple of near misses in the pit lane at Kota. People unused to people stacking 3 across the pit lane. Kota, it was wide enough to be able to do that and do driver changes without even being in the acceleration lane, actually, because it's so big. You could have a football match on that. So full darkness here, each driver having to do a couple of flying laps to qualifying themselves without any worry to drive in the darkness hours. And Paul, we say this every year, worth repeating again though, there will be a lot of darkness during the race.
Yes, something over 14 hours, or just under 14 hours, right, okay. I think. I haven't done the exact sum yet, because there was one thing I was going to leave to do tonight. But yes, it is a dark race for a long time. And with a temperature change as well from daylight, where we're getting quite warm temperatures up to the around about 25 degrees, and overnight dropping down to something like 14, 15 degrees. So quite a change as we go overnight. And what happens as well, as you mentioned, is that it does go dark very, very quickly, and that does mean that you don't really have quite the acclimatization time that you would do normally. When it goes dark more slowly, then you get a bit of acclimatized time of dusk, and then it gets darker and darker and darker, whereas a couple of laps and you just find yourself driving around full headlights, needing the lights to be pointing in the right direction.
The 24-hour series, which is at 24H series on Twitter, has come up with a challenge to us and our listeners. What's the best acronym you can come up with for a collective acronym for all the teams that have 3-letter acronyms? So a TLA for a group of TLAs is basically what they're saying there. I like that. Very good. And if you're not following 24H series on Twitter, you should be. Got a couple of interviews coming from the pit lane. Bruce Jones coming in a moment after we've gone down to the number 911 pit with Andrew. And
here. Looking in pretty good shape. You're the defending champions. Have you got it all worked out for tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, qualifying was good. We're about 7/10 behind P1. All gaps are really close together. All manufacturers are very fast. But there's a 24-hour race, and everything can happen.
I always say about your team, it's not a flashy team. There's just a table and a few computers, but you really understand how to race.
We hope to understand every race, and I think we did a good job the last season or the last 2 seasons, and we hope we can continue our series.
Thanks very much. Great Bavarian team here.
Thank you.
Cora Schumacher, great to see you here again, but last year you raced the Porsche Cayman, now you're in the GT4 Mercedes. How good is it?
Yeah, it's quite strong for me. It's changed a lot since I have been last time, 2012. Yeah, we did on the Cayman GT4, the GT4 series, and now the first 24-hour race. It's very exciting, but I still have to learn a lot. It's quite hard, but I'm happy to be here.
Cora's got a great big smile on your face. Good luck, enjoy it, and I hope you get the power back in your garage. The lights have gone out.
I will.
Thank you, Cora Schumacher.
Bruce Jones following on from Andrew Marriott down the pit lane, live from trackside on RS1 and in sound and vision as well via the 24H website, 24hseries.com website. Thanks to 0221 Media again for the fabulous evening pictures that we're watching here in in the darkness, of which we will have how much exactly time-wise at the weekend, Paul?
I wrote down 13 hours and 18 minutes of darkness, and then as I showed it to you, I thought to myself, strictly speaking, it's a little bit less than that, because that's actually the time between sunset and sunrise on Friday night into Saturday morning.
That's official number.
But so officially between sunset and sunrise is 13 hours and 18 minutes.
The Lamara Cup car getting a bit of love, particularly from Adrian Michael Rees. Hello, AMR. And asking what engine that car. That's got a 5-cylinder, 2.5 litre straight 5 Ford engine, twin turbocharged. 777 pointing the wrong direction. Well, Dries Van Toor behind the wheel and having cars going either side of it.
No, it was a Golf TCR involved as well, because that also spun a sort of synchronised spinning.
That was a turn 12.
Almost as if they'd made contact with each other, and both cars, as you say, facing oncoming traffic briefly. So that was the 777 car that held pole position in the earlier session, but then was denied it because it set that time during a yellow flag area towards the end of the lap. But Dries Van Toor, worrying moment for him there, but he got the thing rotated and back into the session without any dramas.
Yeah, kept his headlights on even though he's facing the wrong direction. That is a scary moment when all you can see coming towards you are very bright headlights indeed.
Christian Engelhardt improving his time in the 964 Grasser Racing Lamborghini. Currently the Lamborghinis have been keeping, or the Grasser Lamborghinis at least, having made those big efforts during qualifying, having a much quieter time of it in this night practice session. Christian Engelhardt, the first one to improve since the code 60 was removed in the 964 car. He's down to a 2 minutes 4.904. Not the fastest Lamborghini, because that's currently the 66 car. The Attempto Racing entered Lamborghini. That's done a 2 minutes 2.522 in the hands of Edward Browner. That's the actually it was actually Stein Schotthorst who set the time in that car, the number 66 Lamborghini.
Let's go down to Andrew, who's got Joe Foster. They're stepping up somewhat from a Porsche to another class and another manufacturer, Andrew.
Yeah, well, Joe, I reckon you were in a comfort zone last season. We just swept everything before you in that 911. Right. This is a different deal.
Yeah, it's absolutely a different deal. This is a brand new car to the team and the drivers as well, except for Adam, who's with us this weekend from Mercedes. The first time it turned the wheel was yesterday. And so we're just going through the normal new car process now, figuring out how to set it up, how to work on it, how to drive it. So it's definitely a new mountain to climb.
Any chance you'll take it to the States at all, other than COTA?
Probably just for COTA. I mean, our plan is to run the whole Creventic series with it at this point.
Joe, of course, you're very used to having an engine in the front. You did so much racing with Paynos, that you ran the Paynos Racing School and everything. So does it bring any memories back?
Oh, yeah. I mean, obviously, I did drive the Paynos in the American Le Mans series back when it was around, and it was a lot of fun as well. It's a very different beast for sure, having the engine out front. It's a really long car.
I reckon this car's a bit cooler than that Paynos was. It was one of the hottest racing cars you could ever sit in.
Yeah, you know what? Any car seems cool compared to the Paynos at this point.
Joe Foster, great guy, and wonderful to see you in that Mercedes-Benz. Wow.
85 Pro Sport Mercedes-Benz GT3 as well, so it's a step up in class for those guys. Charles Putman, Charles Espinov, the two Charleses, along with Joe Foster. Adam Christodoulou is the Mercedes-Benz driver, although he has driven, as Johnny reminded me, I have to say I had forgotten this, I think he has driven with those guys before in a Porsche.
That wasn't me that told you that.
That was Paul, was it?
It may well have been Paul.
I apologise, Paul.
And he drove it at, it was a Cayman that Christodoulou drove at the Nürburgring in 2016. Did 3/4 of a lap with the door fallen off, and eventually managed to bring it home. But no, he's
good when bits fall off cars, is Adam, isn't he?
He certainly knows the guys, and I think it was through knowing the guys at Pro Sport that got him the drive. When he heard that they were getting a Mercedes, he kind of got on the phone and said, I know a bit about Mercedes, and lo and behold, he was part of the team for the Dubai 24
Joe
hours.
was telling me on the pit wall, actually, at COTA, in one of the times one of the many times that I had nothing to do standing in a pit lane, because drivers hardly work at all.
I'd heard that, yeah.
It's fantastic. He was saying that they were going to step up. I was sworn to secrecy at that point. I just wonder whether they might take that car to the Nürburgring as well, actually, or whether they might do something else at the Nürburgring. They are big fans of the Nürburgring 24 hours, but good to hear they're going to do the full Creventic season this year in another of the awesomely sounding Mercedes-Benz.
But Adam was congratulated in the qualifying broadcast that we did for winning this race. He hasn't won this race yet, so that is one that is definitely missing from the trophy cabinet, and there's some unfinished business as far as that's concerned. I'm always looking for, first of all, a class victory here, and can he convert it into an overall? It's a tough ask, but you never know. There's the number 3 car heading through a particularly dark area of the circuit. It's floodlit well on the main straight and heading through areas like turns 1 and 2, but the section from 10, 11 and uphill towards 12, which is where the number 3 car has reached now. I'm just looking to see who is at the wheel of that Mercedes.
It's Jerome Bleekemolen on an outlap.
Okay, I was looking towards the top 5. And,
he's 20th.
He's 20th, which is an alien position for Jerome Bleekemolen. But I think the priority for this session is to allow the slightly slower drivers to just acclimatise themselves with the lack of light and the amount of traffic.
Racing in the dark is magnificent. It really is. Does take your eyes just a moment, and as you get older, of course, it takes that moment longer. Coming out of the brightly lit parts of the circuit, like the pit lane, the front straight, or anywhere where there are bright lights, it does take just a moment for you to get your night vision back. Often helps, the old trick to look sideways into the darkness and then back to the road ahead of you. Paul commented on the headlight technology, or the lighting technology. Most of the cars here are using some form of additional LED lighting, which is extraordinarily efficient. The placement of overhead lighting, very important. There's a couple of places at Kota where pretty much every lap I thought there was somebody behind me, till I remembered it was the light on the side of the circuit. Audi R8 going slowly with the right hand indicator on. Looks like it's off the circuit. May have a puncture going from the carousel onto the back straight. Like it was the white and orange, the tangerine Blackpool car. With
which is the Muka Motorsport entry.
BWT.
And I mean, orange, a very Muka Motorsport livery, so not surprised to see it in those colours. Mike David Ortman then with, actually that car's in the pit, so it's not that car.
Oh, okay, sorry.
It's another, it might be the car collection car actually.
Yeah, the 33 and 34, both those Audis are also fairly orange.
Okay, so they've not done the traditional car collection thing of coming with two very different, or three very different livery.
Both 33 and 34, both in the same livery.
Okay.
Now, was he just pulling over to let somebody by then? One of the things, of course, that I noticed on that was when he put his right-hand indicator on, the right-hand headlight went out, because that's what happens with road cars nowadays, so that you can see them better, unless he'd had a bit of an incident. I can't see him moving slowly on the tracker. So let's assume all is good there. 43 minutes to go, so just past the halfway section, halfway point. Porsche coming down the front straight now with the left-hand indicator on and flashing the lights. And that is the 62 car, one of the Fat Auto Tech cars, that, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
Thought I saw the Swiss flag on that car.
Thomas Praining doing the driving right now.
Super Cup driver and Porsche Junior driver. I think he'd know how to turn the indicator off, wouldn't you? He's done that much racing in these cars. Taking rather too much curb at turn 4 and getting a bit sideways. Good time to point out to anyone here at the track, as well as those watching on the telly pictures, that if you see a car with a number 1 on the side, it means it's leading its part of the championship. There's 2 championships running here this weekend, the 24H GT series and the 24H TCE series, and the way you know which one is which, Johnny, is by the colour of the lights on the side of the car.
Yes, although they're different colours from the race door numbers, because the digital positional lights are orange for GT series and green, in fact, for the TCE series. The doors are orange and blue, in fact, so the orange and blue and the red for Proto Series should be carried on through the season. I'm not sure whether the positional lights will perhaps change colour from this or after this round.
I think the guy responsible was just following instructions.
He was, in fairness.
from what we were told. Talking to Hans earlier on, who works for the race positions display team, but it does mean that you can see very clearly.
Yes.
If it's orange, you can tell immediately it's a GT, and you know it's leading its respective section of the championship.
Yeah, Michael Verges has the number 1 on the side of his car at the moment.
Christian Engelhardt continuing to improve in the Grasser Racing Lamborghini. I mentioned after the Code 60 came to a close that he'd improved his time. Well, he's improved it again and moves up to 4th fastest as a result, with a time of 2 minutes 0.852 seconds, and that puts him behind the 3 Audis, but ahead of the Mercedes. The HTP, the pink car, number 25, is in 5th place, and the number 2 Black Falcon Mercedes, the green car, is in 6th place.
And that's got Gabriele Piana at the wheel of that car, which I have to say is the first time I've noticed Gabriele behind the wheel of the car. I'm sure that some driving has already been completed this week, but first time that I've noticed the Piana moniker next to the number 2. Lars Kern is next up in the 7 car. He's just gone out in the Manthey Racing Porsche ahead of Stuart Hall, who just comes in the GP Extreme Renault RS01 GT3. Edward Lewis Browner in the Attempto Racing Huracan. Number 66 is 9th and 10th at the moment. Ram Racing, who are going about their business just quietly, doing what Ram do. Another Mercedes, that number 5, with Raymond Leonard Vos driving at the moment. And Jerome Blakemolen, stung by the fact that he was down in 20th position when Johnny was looking for him earlier on, has put himself into 11th position so that Johnny doesn't have to look so far down now.
Yeah, that's much more like a Blakemolen position, but really Blakemolen's still not trying his up to his usual standard, let's say. At least a top 3 for Jerome, but I'm sure he's just working his way towards that position. The statement will probably be made in the final 5 minutes of this night practice.
Stuart Hall just brought the 27 Renault back into the pit lane. Now, this was the car that lost its wheel with Frédéric Fatien in the driver's cockpit of it. Left rear wheel went astray. Joe Bradley is down there. Joe, everything all right on that left rear corner?
Yeah, absolutely fine. Sure, I was surprised to see Frédéric Fatien there because he was the driver at the end of the thing. Whether that was the case, just hopped out. Really crowded down here. The team's having to get their head around sharing not just pit garages but pit apron right in front of the garages, and it's very crowded. Cars having to be pushed back before they can actually leave the apron, so it's getting very crowded. But I can tell you that Frédéric Fatien is back out now in that Gulf liveried Renault, and everything looks absolutely fine. So great job getting that car recovered without further damaging it.
So what we're saying there, Joe, is that they put another wheel on once it got back to the pits. Stewie Hall did a couple of laps to make sure it was all still pointing in the right direction, and then they've said to Fred, right, get back on the horse that kicked you and get some night laps in.
Yeah, absolutely. That does look like the tactic. Everyone's disappeared now. I would imagine Stewie's been out there to just check things over to make sure it was just a loose wheel nut that's caused the wheel to be lost. So everything A-OK at GP Extreme.
Thank you very much, Joe. Now, a moment or two ago, we were mentioning the 62 Porsche with its left indicator going for FAC Autotech. The teammate, not to be outdone, is now going around with its right indicator on. So between them, they've got their four-wheel flashes on, but split between the two cars.
All in the interests of balance.
Yes.
Peter Heglin, the Swiss driver, currently heading on an outlap. So feeling the need for the indicator to be on, but he's up to full speed now, so that's just going to cause a distraction for everybody else. Just heading through that long lingering left at turns, well, it's labelled as turns 8 and 9 effectively, and then onto the long straight towards 10.
My bet is that's because he's indicated right to go into the fuel when he's going, because that pit lane is so busy, as Joe was saying. You don't always have a telltale light on the inside of the car to tell you that the indicators are still going. I managed to leave my hazard flashes on at quarter after losing the car on a bit of oil at turn 15, the hairpin, and the car had a lazy spin, and fortunately Mario, our team manager at Aston Martin Lagonda, got on the radio straight away and said, "John, you've got your 4-ways on." Thank you very much. Turned them off. It was one of the few buttons I knew where it was. Looked for that straight away. That fire extinguisher. Always know what they mean. Down to 37 minutes to go. Let's have a look at some of the classes. GT 991 AM. Actually, the top 3 of 991 AM ahead of the pros at the moment, presumably because in the pro class it's the AM drivers who are having a go. No, it's not true. Roman Rusinov is out in the RS Car Motorsport car, which leads pro, but he is behind the Race Union 187 991 Gen 2 car, the FAC Autotech 61 991 AM car, and third place in 991 on his Race Pro Motorsport, Sean McInerney in the 67. In SPX, Lippert Motorsports Lamborghini Huracan Super Tropeo has Alexander Sherpen at the wheel and leads its category in 27th in the 24-hour GT Series standings. In SP2, the KTM Crossbow of KTM Motorsport Australia has got Glenn Wood, the 246 and 41st position, leading its class. In GT4, Darrell O'Young is driving the Phoenix Racing Audi number 247, and he is in 46th position. In fact, he's just lost that to Sebastian Asch for the Besser Group Racing Mercedes, who's taking 45th position and the class lead in GT4. 3 or 4 of those GT4s running exceptionally close together, with 3Y Technology, David Loja and Jonas Lapalainen in Phoenix Racing's 248. 275 and 285, I keep thinking when I see those kind of numbers, the old Radio 1 frequencies. A little bit further down, Cup 1 is Hoffer Racing, powered by Bonk. Michael Fisher behind the wheel with a 131. At least he was when he brought it in the pit lane. He leads Cup 1.
Just before you go down that far, though, John, although because picking out the SP3 cars in amongst the GT4s.
Good point.
And
they're in a different championship, of course.
Different championship. So you know they're very close in performance, but it's quite interesting to see how closely matched they are in terms of their lap times in this night practice session, because this is a good indication of what the actual race pace is likely to be, I would think. Sorry, I interrupted you as you were going down the
don't worry. I mean, all of the timing is available online as well, and as everybody who's watching is watching online, it's just as important that we give the edited highlights, and then everybody get to 24hseries.com and to the timing pages. There's more timing that you can shake a stick at. Trust me, we've tried.
I've been shaking my stick at many of the screens, John.
What you do in your spare time, Paul. It's the hours of darkness. So.
The other thing to pick out is that everybody's been out, with the one exception of the Bonk Motorsport Audi RS3 that we know is not going to be racing, having had an accident in the optional test session on Wednesday. Everybody else has done at least half a dozen, if not more, laps out there on the circuit, including the Lambda Performance Ford GT, which I can't remember who it was, one of our pit lane reporters.
Bruce, I think.
Bruce said it was sitting a bit forlorn in the garage, but it has gone out now and done 7 laps.
as this session doesn't count for grid positions, just for nighttime qualifying, we'll keep an eye on what's going on the track, and we're going to sweat our pit lane resources now and try and get a word with as many people as we can in the last half an hour of track action tonight. Nick Damon is with Nico Verdonk.
Nico, the cars that's come in, number 8, the very attractive Ford GT, and you've got quite a bit of tank tape on there already with the front diffuser. What happened?
Yeah, to be honest, I didn't see it. I was behind, and when I came back, I heard that there was some contact when the car left from the box. So yeah, as you can see, there's some tape on this beautiful car, but we're figuring out to see what the damage is and what we need to replace and get out as quickly as we can again.
How is the car as a GT3? You've got a lot of experience with other machines. How does it compare?
Well, it's one of my favorite cars to drive, but for sure we are missing some pace here at the moment, which we're trying to find out what we can do to improve and close the gap.
It looks very low. It's based on the GT40. Does that actually affect you as far as visibility is concerned around the track?
No, not really. I mean, you have to get used to it, but it's just a bit of a big go-kart feeling, and something what I like.
Nico, thanks a lot, mate.
Yeah.
Interesting car that. Been out of competition for quite a while and dusted off and brought out. Thank you, Nick. Nick Damon down in the pit lane. Ricardo Feller in the BWD Muka Motorsport Audi circulating in relative isolation at the moment, Johnny, and that's quite unusual with 90 cars on the circuit.
Certainly is an opportunity, I suppose, in this slight lull in proceedings. I fancy it's going to get busier again in the final 10 to 15 minutes, but Ricardo Feller, an opportunity again to pick his way round here in the relative gloom. Another young man, Ricardo Feller, just 17 years old, so what increasing amount of drivers now born in the year 2000 or even more recently. And
can we have that mandated against?
I think we should, yeah. Frankly, just stick to karting and single seaters, will you? You're making us all feel old. No, it's great to have him with us, and again, limited car racing career. He's done some ADAC GT Masters and some Italian Formula 4, but prior to 2016, 2015, 14, 13 was all done in karts. So again, it could be a real talent of the future.
Yeah, Ricardo Feller then
and
getting some laps.
And I should mention as well that we've got a Richard Feller and a Ricardo Feller, and they are different drivers. Ricardo being the young man, and Richard slightly older, should we say.
Last time around, he did a 2:04.8. I'm not sure how much darkness racing he's done before, but he's making short work of it and carving his way through traffic at the far end of the circuit. Only one of the Hankook 24H GT Series runners running with 3 declared drivers. That's the 30 Ram racing car. One of those is Tom Onslow-Cole, and he's talking with Joe Bradley now.
Well, every time I look at Tom's Facebook page, he's on holiday. So I'm sure he's fit enough and up to the job of only 3 drivers in the Ram car this weekend, Tom. The number 30 Mercedes is obviously the car I'm talking about. How are you guys going to cope with only 3 drivers?
Well, I'll be fine now. I've been on all these holidays. I'm acclimatised to the heat. It's going to be difficult with 3, mainly because of the maximum 2-hour drive time makes it quite difficult to double stint, because the car awkwardly does 2 hours and 8 minutes or 10 or something like that. So you end up wasting fuel if you go to your 2 hours. So we're going to have to single. Hopefully we're lucky with code 60s and we can make it to the 2-hour mark for lots of the stints. But if not, we are going to be on high alert. Like, we're looking at maybe 2 hours downtime and then back in the car. So yeah, let's see how that works out. I think it's going to be tough, especially Raymond. This is his first 24-hour. He wanted to get his drive time and get his value from it, and that he is going to.
That's pretty tough, being a commentator doing a 24-hour race 2 hours on. That's going to be that Raymond's got to do half of the race.
We're in pro, so he has to do, I think 2 hour minimum is the regulation, but he's going to do his 8. Don't you worry about it.
That's pretty tough, which are we? Yeah. Now, people might ask, does it really come down to just, needing less than 8 minutes to tactically to do well at this race? I mean, Because that's kind of sharpening a razor blade to some extent.
I think that if you look at it, it's like 20 pit stops over the race, and if you give away a few minutes each pit stop because of excess fuel, then you have to have another stop, and the stop is 4 minutes probably we're looking at with the fuel. It's 2 laps straight away, so it can really make a difference to your position, and that's only if you're giving away a couple of minutes of fuel. Like we would potentially look at maybe 20 minutes worth, so we would quite quickly rack up extra pit stops. So we're conscious of it, and I think we can do something in the night. Maybe we'll be able to go back to back for a little while, and one of us can get a bit of extra sleep and then swap over. So we'll figure it out as it goes.
So there was no thought of adding a fourth driver, because I know someone who's kind of up to the job. He's here. He might need to borrow a helmet. He might not have one big enough, but there you go. We can try.
Organisers, you think you could get in?
yeah. He's in my ear now saying,
I bet he is. It's Riemann that really wanted to do it with a 3. He wanted to come here and really take on the 24-hour challenge, and I mean it probably doesn't get much tougher than this with 3 drivers. I've done a few other 24s with 3 drivers, but when you can triple through the night, it's not so taxing. But
especially here, Tom, not just the circuit, the traffic. You're going to get those code 60s, no doubt.
Yeah, they will be welcome breaks. I think if we can get those a bit later on in the race, that'd be fantastic if someone could organise that.
And qualifying, Tom, I mean, we talk about, is it important? How did your qualifying go for the Ram team?
We would like to be a little further up. I think we're 7th in class and just outside the top 10 somewhere. So we've concentrated a lot on the race pace in testing and neglected probably the qualifying setup. But we're happy with what we've got for the race, and that's important. Yes, I'd like to be further up, but I'm quietly confident we've got a real good machine for tomorrow, and that's the #1 target, really.
And absolutely. And Tom's wife, who was here, has disappeared. You're going to have to contact Swansea and change her colour. She's been on holiday so long.
And well, hasn't she?
Yeah. Great stuff, Tom. Thanks for talking to us, and we'll speak to you later on the weekend. Thanks, man.
Good luck.
Yeah, congratulations to Tom and Rebecca. Got married towards the end of last year, and very happy for the pair of them. Meanwhile, out on the circuit, the 991, number 991 circulating. There's a 911 and a 911. Herbert Motorsport is the 911, of course. That's in the fueling area at the moment for Dennis Olsen. That car down to 14th position now as others improve, and an incident between the 908 Peugeot and the 777 Audi MS7 by WRT being investigated at the moment. Can't say I noticed it out there, but then again I've been looking at the timing.
The 777 and the
908.
I just wonder whether, caught a glimpse, if you remember, on the live stream of the 777. It was an onboard view.
Yes, and you thought it was a Golf.
And I thought it was a Golf, but it could very easily have been a
very
Racing Cup
easily.
Peugeot.
Yes, very good.
I didn't see the contact. What I saw was 2 cars spinning, synchronised spinning almost, and it smacked to me as if there'd been some kind of touch. There's the 777 car then, with Mohammed bin Saud Al Saud at the wheel. He's the man that considers the 7 to be such a lucky number. Could have been even luckier in qualifying, because they had provisional pole, but it was taken away from them because of a yellow flag in that sort of area at the end of the lap because of a stricken car in pit lane entry. Well, an incident involving that car and the 908 now being looked into. I think it happened either at a turn
12.
Yeah, that was going to be my guess, 12 or 10. But yes, turn 12, when the car spun on the exit, and many other cars did well to avoid 2 machines facing the wrong way.
Just picking up on what Tom Monzo Cole was saying about his driving time, he said that Ramon was going to not do 12 hours, but less than 12 hours, didn't he? Because I think he has to do 12 hours.
Even for a pro?
No,
Sorry, what I mean is
it's a pro class car.
Because it's a pro class car, and in the pro class cars, the pro drivers are only allowed to do a maximum of 12 hours
in total combined.
So
Correct.
that means that if Tom and Ewan don't go more than 12, so if they do 8 hours each, Tom and Ewan will have done 16 hours, and that's more than 12 hours.
Yeah.
So for that reason, Ramon is going to have to do 12 hours or more than 12 hours, unless 3 driver teams have been given an exemption. Now, I've just checked the regulations, and there's nothing in the regulations specifically regarding 3 driver teams, but it does say that exemptions are possible in writing from the race director.
The more the other interesting thing about that, not the more interesting thing, the other interesting thing about that, of course, is what Tom was saying about the maximum drive time is 2 hours. So you'd want to go to 2 hours and do 2 hour. So that means you'd do 2 hours on and you'd have 4 hours off. But to do that, you can't easily split that with your fuel. The car does about 1 hour and 4 minutes on a tank of fuel. Therefore, that would be 2 hours and 8 minutes. So you'd be wasting a bit of fuel at the end of every 2 hour driver stint if you went through full green. And that's going to add up. Okay, you could say, well, you won't have to put as much fuel in, so you won't have to stand for so long at the fuel pumps, but ultimately you're going to end up doing an extra stop.
But that is true for everybody, regardless of their composition, whether you're 3 drivers or 4 drivers. You know, your stint and your fuel time doesn't quite match.
One of the things is getting your race pace correct, so that you can maximise the amount of time at a decent pace. If you can go a second a lap slower, and yet you can do 2 or 3 laps more and get yourself a bit closer to that 2 hours, that could be really, really important.
And flexibility is ultimately important with the arrival of Code 60s, knowing what to do under the Code 60 situation. So your engineer that does all of that strategy must have a plan for Code 60 at any particular time. Is it a good time? Is it not a good time?
Let's go down to Joe Bradley again in the pit lane. Another fabulous character, of which there are legion in the Creventic paddock. Here's another one which a lot of our British listeners and viewers will remember, has been around the scene for a long time. Gillian Westwood is with Joe Bradley.
I hope you're talking about Jules Westwood, not me there, John. Jules Westwood, I'm going to blow his mind here. I believe the last time I interviewed you was in the Vauxhall Vectra Challenge on the Talker package, probably 96.
Yeah, 97 that would be, 97.
97.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about that long ago, but because they were good times for me.
Yeah, you were only 12.
Yeah, well, I wish I was only 12 then. I was already 30-something back then.
So anyway, Jules, recently, I've got to say, it's nice to see you back in your natural habitat as a driver, because you've been working the pit wall on a few of the races we've been to. It must be nice for you to get back behind the wheel, because I'm sure we're all frustrated racing drivers, aren't we, no matter what we do in this pit?
Yeah, I mean, it's an amazing opportunity to get to drive again. I was out of the driving seat for, well, as good as 10 years or so, and then I got a couple of years with Ian Loggy in the Black Pan in the AM Trophy, which we won that. We won Spa 24 Hours, so we had some good times, and then suddenly I was back on the other side of the pit wall, depressed again, because really I thought I got it all out of my system, then it drip fed back to you, and then it's taken away again. So this is fantastic, and it does take a little while to get back into it. I haven't raced at Dubai, so I'm still sort of learning the track a bit, but great. I mean, couldn't be more thankful to the Mutrans for giving me the opportunity to do it.
I would imagine, do you find yourself overlapping 2 jobs while you're at the wheel of the car going round, and the team manager or the engineer shouting stuff, and you're thinking, no, I wouldn't do that?
I have to say, it's a great deal of satisfaction running the pit wall side of it. If you're doing well, we've won races with the Mutrans before. A lot of satisfaction there. But my original thing was driving, and my passion was driving. So to be sitting in the car, it's great. And I'm trying to. We got Dave Brew as the engineer for us. So I'm quite thankful that I could just leave it to somebody and just relax. I actually had a little sleep this afternoon.
You don't even do that during the night. Now you're with Dual Racing, and that's the Mutran family. Yeah. Former champions in this series, all right, a different class of car. but it's a great outfit, and I believe it's Natasha kind of team managing, operations manager still.
She is, yeah. It's a total family affair. There's Natasha's team managing, and the three brothers are driving. And it's a very slick operation run by Chris Tweed. He looks after the car, and to be fair, the car is like brand new. He does an amazing job, and the boys do a great job. And it's such the atmosphere in the team is great. You know, I've worked in plenty of teams where there's always like a little bit of needle here and there. But this lot, from start to finish, and Dave Brewer's new to us, and he's fitted straight in. It's a great place to be involved.
And I believe, is it Nabil who leaves a kilometre or Ramsey? Which one leaves a kilometre?
Nabil, yeah.
And I believe their wife has brought some home cooking, so I'm going to be off air for a few minutes.
Yeah, pop in and have a snack. They all themselves. It's fantastic. It's like a serious holiday.
Serious holiday, because they are local, of course. I'm going to be a while, guys. We're going off for a bit of a home cooking from the Mootrans. Thanks, Jules.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, because Joe, you can't afford to miss a meal. You're right on the ragged edge of emaciation there, aren't you? Joe Bradley down in the pit lane. Spin for the 239 Ginetta there.
Yeah, that's at least a second one in this session, I'm afraid.
I've got a feeling that, having said earlier on with Paul how good the track conditions are, I think it's got a bit dusty out there tonight, and as the temperature drops, that hasn't helped either.
It's also quite blustery out there as well, and has been today and yesterday.
There's your answer then, because that'll be bringing a little bit of the fine talcum powder dust onto the circuit, and that might just be catching one or two people out. I've seen a few bits and pieces around the track, not even where cars have we've seen cars standing still, but there's a little more debris brought onto the track, some gravel and some dirt. So clearly more than the odd one or two people are being challenged, shall we say, with 16 and a half minutes left this evening, and then the full 24 hours tomorrow. And if you're here in the area, come and see us. It'll be a good race tomorrow. Doors are open. Won't cost you anything to get in.
Not forgetting a warm-up session, John, because there's a half-hour warm-up session at 11 o'clock tomorrow morning, which will just give the opportunity for bad things to happen. I've already spoken to certainly one, I think it might have been two teams who said that they weren't going to come, they weren't going to come here for the warm-up. They're going to be here, but they're not actually going to get the car out for the warm-up. Improvement for the Attempto Lamborghini, number 66, Clemens Schmidt, improving his time on his previous lap around, and then bringing the car into the pits, having done a 2 minutes 1.416. The 66 Lamborghini then 8th fastest in this session. And the other thing I've been keeping an eye on is the lap times of Mohammed bin Saud, who's out at the wheel of the 777 WRT Audi, and he's lapping probably about 2 seconds slower on average than Michael Vergers. So that's going to be important because of the way that at least 2 hours will have to be driven by Mohammed, and that's all part of the character of this race, really, is managing to blend your drivers in at the right times.
The closing speeds of these GT3 cars on the rest of the field is extraordinary. Isaac Tatumle Lopez behind the wheel of the Car Collection Motorsport, number 4, the 33 car in fourth position, the 33 car, and that Audi R8 LMS out on the back straight at the moment with a little bit of clear track ahead. I'll keep an eye on that whilst we listen to Nick Damon. Good evening, Nick.
Good evening, all. With Indy, John, you out of the 25 Indy. How do you feel qualifying went for your car?
Well, we're a bit disappointed. We were really quick in the free practices, and I think due to the temperature difference and some small traffic, which here in Dubai, we were not on our position, P17 in the end. 24 hours is long, so I think we can still come back.
So where do you think you should have been? 17 disappointed. What would you have been happy with?
Well, I guess top 10 would be easily possible with our performance.
already this weekend. So yeah, that was easily possible.
Looking towards the race, I mean, you had issues with setup because obviously we've now seen the temperatures drop many more degrees. How much is the track changing each time you go out?
Well, I really felt it when I was driving this free practice or our free practice in GT. There was much more grip, and yeah, we lost a bit in qualifying. You really feel it when the sun drops. Yeah, you just feel overall less grip. So we have to see how it develops in the race. But for now, it's going really well. We're driving in the front, and times are good in the night. So yeah, I'm looking forward to tomorrow.
Thanks, mate.
Got another stranded car this time, and in fact a code 60 to try and deal with it as well at turn 9. So partway round the parabolica, if you like, partway round that left-hand bowl, the car looks like it's pitched to the right.
It's the Gulf Porsche, the Japanese team Porsche, and as you say,
Tsunami car. Tsunami RT car, the 37.
No, the Gulf Racing Japan car. 991
sorry, you see me.
is its number. Currently in the hands of.
How's it ended up there? I mean, it's facing the wrong way and sort of come out of the corner and turned right effectively. Maybe just a little bit too much right foot, but the car, is it damaged on that front right corner, or is it just waiting for a gap?
Good spot, Paul. Very good spot.
To come in back onto the track.
It's Kimihiro Yashiro, the driver at the moment.
So it can't move despite there now being a code 60. Driver can't fire the engine into life. Doesn't look to be damaged on the right hand side, and fingers crossed that's also the case on the left. Recovery vehicles have now arrived at the scene. Little Audi TT with the flashing amber light on the rear shelf effectively, and a much larger safety team pickup which is now ready to tow that car back to the paddock. So hopefully it should be a relatively short code 60. 11 minutes to go. We had the concept of adding time to an earlier session. That was free practice, wasn't it? Which didn't actually happen because we ended up with a red flag. But
some time was added, though.
Some time was added.
Yeah.
Are we likely to have time added in this session?
I doubt it, to be honest. I mean, we'll see what happens. Certainly there is no obligation to add any time.
Let's nip down to the pit lane whilst we've got the opportunity. Joe Bradley is patrolling down there and down, well, next to the 19 car, Joe.
Yeah, absolutely. I was wanting to try and find the Dutch drivers, Daniel de Jong and Bert de Huys, who's in the 19 Mercedes. The car has been in the garage having some, I couldn't even tell what they were doing. It's now been pulled out of its garage. That was the air jack going off. That's the engine firing up, what you can hear in the background. And the car currently in 24th place in this session has pulled out. So there's no drivers loitering, so we can't get a word and a bit of background as to what was going on. But the bonnet was down, the driver's door was open, so maybe a little bit of data acquisition before they sent the car out there. So we've got a red flag, guys, a red flag. So they've stopped the session.
Thank you, Joe. Yes, this is for the 991 that's hit the barrier at the exit of the carousel,
That
Johnny.
makes a lot more sense. I just couldn't work out how the 991 car had ended up at such a peculiar angle. I couldn't see any damage on the right-hand side, and we're not at liberty to describe the left-hand side of the car, but it almost looked like it had gone in front right and had popped back out again and ended up facing the wrong way.
Unless he's
at turn 9. I mean, it's the banked corner, so if it's just suddenly lost grip and then flicked to the right,
correct,
I can understand that. It seems more likely that it's just understeered out, though, and collected the barrier that way. I don't know, without being able to see exactly what happened or indeed talk to the driver.
35th position for that car. Kimihiro Ishiro was behind the wheel. Oh, well, they've stopped the clock with 10 minutes to go.
Yeah, okay.
So this might restart.
It was interesting because just before we had that incident, there were a couple of cars that were improving their times. I think you mentioned Isaac Tutumlu Lopez's time, a time of 1:59.987 just before the red flag, or before that yellow Code 60 first of all. Lance David Arnold also improved in the number 16. No, it wasn't Lance David, was it? It was the next one down, number 9. Andreas Weishaupt in the Audi, who did a 2-minute 0.029, and also Lucas Stoltz in the number 2 Black Falcon car, Abdulaziz Al Faisal in the number 2 Black Falcon car, going more quickly towards the end of that session. So there were people improving, so it would be good if we do get this session restarted for the final 10 minutes.
You know, one of the things I do like about Code 60 is it just gives you that extra option to take a moment whilst everyone's going round slowly to get vehicles there and assess the situation. If you have to throw a red flag, you can still throw a red flag, but if you don't have to throw a red flag, then you can carry on to Code 60, clear the obstruction and get going again.
And the key thing with Code 60, of course, because it happens around the circuit simultaneously, you can get service vehicles onto the circuit without having to wait for
the safety car to pick up
everybody and to slow everybody down.
I agree. So we're in a little bit of limbo at the moment with the clock stopped with 9 minutes and 59 seconds to go. RS1 and Sound and Vision together, all on the series website, 24hseries.com, and of course on the video player at radiolemans.com as well. On another 24-hour weekend, the Hankook 24 Hours of Dubai has rapidly established itself as the opening of the International Motor Racing Series for endurance racing. A couple of weeks' time will be at Daytona for the Rolex 24 over on RS2, IMSA Radio. And then the week after that, back on to RS1, and again in Sound and Vision for international viewers and listeners, it will be the Liqui Moly Bathurst 12 Hours. So a busy start to the year. No longer twiddling thumbs till the middle of March or the beginning of April. Oh no, we'll have lapped the whole world by the time that the European season starts, and a bit more. Actually, looking forward to Bathurst, Johnny?
Just a bit, yes. It's been a long time since I last went there, about, now 8 years ago, so Bathurst 12 Hour, I want to tick off for me, and I finally get to do that this year.
So waiting to hear from the organisers what the situation will be with this recovery and whether we'll get started. Let's go down to Joe Bradley, who's he's actually right to pit out when he was doing that when he was doing that checking of car number 19. Joe Bradley, what can you tell us at the end of pit lane?
Well, we've got one car at least. It's a Lamborghini. It's a dark-coloured Lamborghini. I can't see the number. But they believe that this session's going to be restarted. Maybe a bit of added time like we saw earlier. There's the 237 car joining it. All very hard to see. Bright red lights. But there's a big red light stopping people going any further than pit out. But they are forming a queue. The 237 and the sister car, the 238, is... and now we've got a queue forming. Quite a few.
That's because you've mentioned it, Joe.
Yes, I have. I've announced it.
Bradley's
I hope I haven't started that.
Yes, I think you
Of course, I forget we're on the PA here, aren't we?
Yes, of course.
So everybody can hear what we're saying. But we've now got a 5-car queue ready to go back out. So hopefully the session will be extended a little bit. Because of course,
clock stopped,
it's
Joe.
important.
The clock has stopped.
All right, so we are going to just stop the clock and restart it, so everyone's going to have time to get their laps in.
Well, that's how it stands at the moment. We've got 9 minutes and 59 seconds on the clock at the moment, and there's half a dozen or so cars in the acceleration lane, one or two others that look like they're getting ready to pull into the fuel stop and get some fuel. I suppose there's nothing... Well, I don't know. That's a good question, is it? Are you allowed to roll down the right-hand side and into the fuel stop, get fueled, and then wait for the green flag? The 171 RCZ Peugeot seems to think so, as it's pulling out. Joe Bradley?
Yeah, there's a couple of cars done that, John. They went down the right-hand side of what the queue, what you've seen there on the TV, and then turned right into the fueling. So they're getting the fueling done while we are in a break.
Yeah, smart move. Meantime, it's the usual traffic jam down on the rest of the pit lane with cars 2 and 3 abreast, some parked in jaunty angle, sort of 45 degrees in echelon. That's ear of corn to those of you who don't speak Le Mans.
Thank you.
That's all right. I know you do. No big changes in the times, although I've noticed the SP2 top time now is the 78 Speed Lover Porsche. That wasn't the case earlier on. It was the Lamera Cup car. So Dominique Bastien in that car when it came into the pit lane. SPX still the GGL Racing Middle East. Rory Pentinen behind the wheel of that car, brought it in. 991 Pro, still FAC Autotech and Jens Richter, the 62 car. 991 Arm, still faster than the Pro car, Wolfgang Triller. Another man who knows this circuit very well from Porsche Carrera Cup Middle East. Races in the... I think Wolfgang was racing in the bronze category. I apologise if you're a silver driver, Wolfgang, but certainly has been at the sharp end of the category he races in the Porsche Carrera Cup Middle East, and clearly knows this circuit very, very well indeed. A6 Pro is the 777, leads overall as well. A6 AM, the Audi R8 LMS, and we should talk as well about the TCE categories. So let me just pull those up as well, which is on a different screen a little bit further through, if I can find it. And it's bound to be right at the very opposite end of where I was. That maybe we'll only get that in the race. So the best of the SP3 GT4s.
Session will be resumed. We have confirmation now on the screen. So the 9 minutes and 59 seconds that first appeared when the session stopped and was red flagged still remains. And the time to open the pit lane is going to be confirmed very shortly.
Can you put the
what are you looking for?
SP4s, please? Sorry. Paul, can you give me the classes for the TCEs?
I can indeed.
Well, TCR is the first
So at the moment, fastest in the TCEs is, as you said, the Speed Lover Porsche, number 78, leads SP2. And then the 60 car, Christophe Bouchou's Lamera Cup car, is second, and that's second in SP2. In TCR, it's the 216 Modena Motorsports Seat, Matthias Besch currently driving it. That's car number 216, 53rd overall, leading TCR. Second in TCR is the 888 Vincent Rademacher driven AC Motorsport entered Audi RS3, and then third is the third different manufacturer, the VW Golf of the Liqui Moly team, number 130 is third in the TCR. In BMW Cup 1, that's being led by Michael Schreier again, or still 131, the Hoffer Racing powered by Bomp Motorsport BMW Cup class leader, and then the two Sorg Rennsport cars in second and third in Cup 1, numbers 152 and 151. A2 currently being led by number 171, the Peugeot RCZ, ahead of the 171, ahead of the Sicily Motorsport Renault Clio Cup car. That's number 162.
On the flatbed, the 991 is on its way back, damage to the right front and the right rear, and a bit of a wobbly wing on the back as well. It looks like the right-hand side of the rear aerofoil has become completely detached from the upright, and that's taken a decent bang front and then side, I would say. And that car's going to need a little bit of remedial action tonight, Johnny, when it gets back to the pits.
I mean, it makes more sense if it went in backwards, the rear right first, followed by the front right, and then that flicked it round to face the wrong way.
Possibly.
So whether the car has lost it partway round turn 9 and it's just drifted out then to the wall.
Before we go back to green, and we are going to go back to green, time to open pit lane to be confirmed, but the session will be resumed, says Race Control. Joe Bradley is at the end of Race Control and can bring us an interview and a bit of an update. Joe?
I'm just standing chatting to Roberto Pampanini, who were beside this beautiful Lamborghini Huracan, car 963. And while we've been taking advantage of the brake, Roberto, you've been having some adjustments to the lighting on the front of the car. What exactly is the drivers, yourself being one of them, been complaining of with regards to the lights?
Yes, we have a lot of problem on the corner 4, 5 and 6. We couldn't see nothing. I don't know why. Maybe we saw now we have to adjust the light. And yeah, we try now if it's getting better in this way. And we need sometimes the Audi that has a really good light, much better than us. And if you have an Audi in the front of you, you have a lot of light in the night. But I think we will adjust it now. For tomorrow, we will be fine.
That's going to ruin your race if you have to follow an Audi round.
Sometimes you have to, or you can pass.
Very important, Roberto, because 14 hours of this race is in darkness like we have now. How bad is it out there for vision and lighting at Dubai?
Yeah, 14 hours is really a long time. Especially we get some problem when you have sand on the track, and if you pass somebody or somebody pass you, the sand get up, and then you have really it's dangerous. So you have to be really careful. But yeah. It's the same for everybody.
Yeah, that's the spirit.
Yeah.
Thanks, Roberto.
Okay.
Thanks for taking that break with us.
Thank you.
Roberto Pamanini from the Lamborghini team, and the guys just, I think, trying to spread the LED lights to the side a little bit, and a lot of drivers prefer, if you will, puddle lights or almost like fog lamps, just spreading out to look for the apices of the corners. You've got fairly flat curbs here at Dubai, not as if they've got the big built-up curbs that we had at Koto. You really couldn't afford to hit those. But to be honest, it's driver preference. Nick Damon is down in the pit lane as well. Let's take a report from Nick.
I'm not.
Oh wow, where are you?
I'm in the part Fairmount. I'm with the 991. The bits the 991 at the left.
All right, tell me.
I'm not moving because I've got reception.
Well done.
On the left-hand side of the car, it looks like quite a nice Porsche actually. The sort of Porsche you would consider buying from your local Porsche dealer. Unfortunately, on the right-hand side, it looks like the sort of Porsche you see at the Breakers Yard.
Is it that bad?
He's gone down he has hit the barrier and run down the side of the barrier on the left-hand side, and scraped and broken all the various pieces of panel. The most obvious thing, obviously, he's managed to rip off the rear mounting on the right-hand side of the big old GT3 wing. Now, the odd thing is, what I will say, is what it's not doing, which Porsches normally do after an accident, it's leaking any fluid, and what it also doesn't seem to have done is deranged any of the wheels. So, from my,
glancing blow then?
I think quite a glancing and a rundown blow, and I think that's fixable. I don't think this is terminal, because it doesn't seem to have done any of the things you would think would be terminal, unless, of course, what caused it was terminal. All four wheels point in the same direction. Everything okay apart from bodywork.
Flat spotted
not
tyres,
as bad as you think for a red flag.
Flat spotted tyres. Do we see anything's locked up with the transmission or something like that, particularly the back ones?
Because it rolled off the flatbed very easily.
Okay.
Just see if I can just move a little bit here. Have a look at the rear, and
well done.
Again, if you look at the rear, apart from the wing coming off, it looks fine as well. So you would have to say that no, even the front. No, genuinely, perhaps the front right's got a slight camber issues, but nothing there would tell me it's not going to get fixed.
I think Joe Bradley's just got himself a job for the evening, don't you?
Yeah, get the spanners out, Bradley. 20 seconds before we go back to green flag. The pit lane will open and we will have 9 minutes and 59 seconds. Stand by for action. Anything can happen in the next 600 seconds. This could be very, very hectic indeed as everybody goes out to try and get the last few laps in this night practice session. One of the RS01 Renault's coming out without any lights on into the acceleration lane, and green flag. The clock is started and we are running towards the checkered flag. The last opportunity before race day. Half an hour of warm-up to do a little bit of checking to make sure that nothing's fallen off during the night, or anyone who's had problems like that 991 car, where that might have to have a rebuild. Gives them an opportunity to get that car out and then spanner check it when it comes back in. But this could be very hectic, Johnny.
It certainly could, because we were starting to see some quick times come in. Mirko Bortolotti was starting to turn up the wick a little bit towards the end of that session. Obviously being brought to an early red flag, but at least we've got these extra 10 minutes, or very nearly 10 minutes, bolted onto the end, and have therefore the teams just done some adjustment to the cars to get ultimate single lap speed out of them to see what they can do in the darkness, or is it just a case of treating the rest of this session like they did the first bulk of it, and just make sure that the non-pros are happy in this level of light? So a flood of cars now that were released from the end of the pit lane, making their way down the long straight. It was the 66 that was at the front of that train of cars, with Alex Riberas for Attempto Racing and their Lamborghini.
Interestingly, though, whilst we had that red, I was checking down the top few cars, and as far as I can tell, pretty much all of them have qualified all their drivers already. The one that hasn't is the 28 GP Extreme car. Bassam Cronfley hasn't yet done his laps under nighttime conditions, but pretty much all of the rest of the top 20, I haven't been down and checked all 90 cars, but pretty much the top cars have all had their all 4, or in some cases 5 drivers setting their 2 qualifying laps that they have to, and in some cases people have been out and doing extra stints as well. So with the exception of that incident we've just had, most of the cars have had pretty trouble-free runs.
On board with Lamborghini Huracan going underneath us at the moment, and it's rear view mirror replaced by a camera system that had camera 3 written on it. What are the other 2 cameras pointing at?
Wow.
That's the 963 car that we were watching in pit lane earlier on, getting the headlamps or the additional lamps repositioned. Very purposeful looking car, that Lamborghini.
So that's the sister Huracan GRT Grasser Racing Team, the car that went so well in qualifying, with Mirko Bortolotti doing the qualifying, and it inherited pole position effectively after the treble 7 was put back to 4th place. But Mauro Calamia, the Swiss, doing the driving in the 963, which is the A6 AM entry from Austrian outfit GRT.
They know which way is up when it comes to running a car. Quickest of the GT Daytonas last weekend at the Daytona International Speedway, and therefore get the pick, the best pick for their pit position and garage position of the GT Daytona runners when it comes round to Daytona in a couple of weeks' time, Paul.
Which is not long away, is it? Just checking down on those 2 Grasser Racing Lamborghinis. Mark Ineichen, as opposed to Rolf, Mark Ineichen is down to drive both of them and has actually been out in both of them in this nighttime session, which is, he isn't obliged to go out in both of them as long as he does his night laps in one car or the other. He didn't have to go out in both, but he has done. So the Lamborghini, who was it? I think it might have actually been Bertolotti who was saying to Andrew Marriott earlier on how much he's looking forward to the race, and challenging to make it a win for Lamborghini. And you know, I mean, Creventic hasn't been kind to Lamborghinis in the past, but you know, that the cars are fast, they are strong. The team, certainly Grasser, knows enough about 24-hour racing now to be able to get on with it. But I think it was Johnny Palmer's comment earlier on, they don't have the depth in numbers that, for example, Mercedes or Audi have.
Bit of a brace has broken out here.
Oh no.
Andreas Weishaupt in the BWT Muka Motorsport Audi has got the Lamborghini right up his tailpipes, and then behind that, I think it's Rui Agua